Hey,
Hey,
we're live. Back at it again.
good to be live.
Is the goal to do a live stream every time you visit?
I think so. I think it's good for business.
Yeah.
Good for
Well,
business.
this is his first time on a tech stream, so welcome back, everyone. Tailosive Tech Live on YouTube, and we are talking tech, but we'll also answer non-related tech questions as they arise. Um, we've done talk streams in the past and talks podcast, which have all been kind of different because the recordings let us dive into our own subjects, whereas the
Right.
live streams, the chat kind of decides.
Yeah, we gotta go with the chat.
Right.
You decide.
Uh huh.
You steer the conversation
Right.
with your super chats. Correct?
Yeah. Super chats or non super chats. But
Super chat.
you've been in the chat
Yeah,
several times in the past.
I
I've
think
seen you
so.
pop in.
Oh yeah, from wherever I am, it's fun to tune in.
On one of the streams, we did a like buying guide. Do you remember that one? We were kind of talking about what you should get.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, yeah, I was in the market for a new computer.
Uh huh.
My iMac had sat in the barn for about 6 years.
That's right. That
Hadn't
was
been
the family
used.
Mac.
Right. Yeah,
Everyone used it.
it's still good for DVDs.
Oh, that's
It was
true.
one of those models that had the little slot loading DVD
Uh huh.
player, but that was our
That's
television
right.
for a lot of years, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
you bought that before we even had the flat screen, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
was the
we
flat
did.
screen.
That was TV. That was our television.
We had that big, well, it was kind of my room, but also somewhat of a media room
Yes.
upstairs. But we all piled in that little
I
office
had a little bitty
downstairs.
office. It's like a 9 by 12 little room, and we'd all cram in there and watch movies.
Five of us.
You'd get to the end of a movie, and it was kind of steamy in there. It's kind
Yeah.
of, ew.
24-inch. Oh, no, it might have
Yeah,
been more.
no, I think it was 20,
24.
24-inch iMac with
I
the
forgot.
slot loading DVD, and we didn't have really excellent Wi-Fi in those days, so we were
Yeah.
still getting Netflix on DVD.
That
The
was
little,
that's how we knew about Netflix. Was it just movies that came through
yeah,
the mail, but you ordered them on the net? That's where
right. You
Netflix
used the
came from.
net to order the films.
And
That
the
was
big deal
pretty high tech.
back then was you could keep the movies as long as you wanted, which Blockbuster wasn't doing at the time.
Yeah, yeah, you got it. You kept it.
Uh huh.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
great. That's
our
great.
Mac, and you still have it. But what was
Still
wrong with
have
it?
it. It just couldn't update.
Mm.
I've mostly been using a lot of Google stuff for my
Mm-hmm.
projects and things, and won't even work. It doesn't.
The browser won't even
Yeah,
update.
it doesn't even update. So
Yeah.
it's not useful at
Oh,
all.
good. We
Oh,
already have lots of questions.
oh,
Hello, Tailosive Senior. Hello, Drew and Dad. Do you think your son is addicted to Apple products? Real question.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think if you watch, and I do too, when you watch, he's fair. If there's something Apple does that you don't like, you say
That's
it.
true.
You call him out on it.
That's true.
I think that's a good quality, that you're not simply a sheep, but you
Despite the
like
title.
you like that sheep
Yeah.
sheep title. No,
Yeah.
and it started with me. I'll take credit for that.
Mhm.
But when computers were getting going in education,
Yes.
the big debate amongst people in schools was, are you going to go Apple or are you going to go PC?
Right.
And in terms of managing a lot of computers across multiple school sites and things like that,
Mhm.
PCs were great because they would just clone them and just,
Uh-huh.
if a computer's giving you a problem, they just basically restart it as a
Uh-huh.
clone, just kind of purge it, and
Right.
you'd go on from there. We had a little thaw space on the hard drive, they called
Mhm.
it, so you could save files on an individual machine, but otherwise they were just little network
Oh,
dump
okay.
ports.
I see.
And with Apple, you didn't. That wasn't as easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose somebody would know how, but the people that
Sure.
were working in the schools knew how to do the PC thing. So
Uh-huh.
PC became the thing, and I had principals that liked that I could make a video on like iMovie and show it to the school board
Yeah.
and show something we were doing and that.
Uh-huh.
So I always had Apple at home, and I had Apple at school when everyone
Right.
else was having to.
We were an
switch to
Apple
PC.
household.
We were.
I remember one time asking if we could get a PC though, as a kid.
Because you wanted to play a game or
Yeah.
it was a gaming thing.
My buddy Ross, who helped me film the Series 7 review we just posted, back then he was playing games on the PC, and I was like, well, this is a lot cheaper.
Hmm.
Can we just get that? I don't remember how the conversation went, but it was probably like, Not in this house. For 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 me in my house.
Honey, our son just told us he wants a PC. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Right. We just want you to know we love you. We always will love
We'll
you no
always
matter
support
what.
you.
I did buy a PC later in high
Did you?
school. Do you remember that?
Oh, that
The big
big thing with it was all
Yeah.
lights blinking in it.
Right.
Bought
That's-
it from Austin. I did.
Yeah. Ross's brother. Oh, Ben Close says, do you have any cassette tapes? I've recently started collecting myself.
My wife has a cassette deck in her car. Did you know that?
Really?
The
Her
Hyundai
car-
Azera. It's like an 07 or an 08.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I thought it was
It
about
has
the
a
same
CD,
age.
a multiple CD changer,
Oh, wow.
but it has a cassette deck in it.
I've been in that car many times. I had no clue.
Yeah, you probably didn't know what it was.
What?
What's this big
What is
square
that?
thing?
Can I fit
No,
my
it
phone
was
in there?
it's a cassette deck. So we do have cassettes, but
Mhm.
they die. I
They
will
die.
say VHS videotapes
Yeah.
seem to last longer than DVDs.
Right. I
If
thought
you-
about that
You
too.
put DVDs in, they get scratched, they're done. VHS tapes, I've literally taken them apart and patched them with Scotch tape and used them for years. They're not as good a quality, but they'll run even if they're getting grainy.
I remember that because that was one of the first like new technology standards that was coming into popularity when I was a kid, to the point that I still remember when we were doing everything on VHS and you started bringing DVDs home.
Yeah.
And they had menus, which was different.
Mm-hmm.
VHS didn't, but I remember how quickly we were damaging the DVDs just
Yeah.
by sliding them in those plastic cases, and then they were
I
done.
don't think they figured that out. I think
Mhm.
DVDs are probably losing out now to all the
Everything's
streaming
streaming,
stuff.
yeah.
But no, that technology came in and everybody's like, wow, that's awesome. Because I had remember I had a D, not a CD, but a D,
No,
a disc,
just a disc.
laser disc.
Oh, laser disc. Yeah.
Because compact
I remember
disc
laser disc.
meant, laser disc. We had one.
It's like
It
a
was
vinyl.
It was that big, yeah. It
Yeah.
was as big as a vinyl, maybe bigger.
Wow.
But it looked like a giant CD.
But
So I used to tell people it's just a D.
it just
It's a-
but the quality was higher than a not DVD. But
They were higher than
VHS.
VHS, yeah.
I
What
think-
was cool is we had games, and not games so much, but simulations we could do in the classroom with some of them.
Yeah.
So where, if you're watching and you make a choice, you hit a code and it
Right.
would jump to that.
Choose
so
your
it's
own
kind of early
adventure.
choose your own adventure sort
Mm.
of technology. It was cool.
Huh. Oh, Mike says your book will help me get through many flights in the next 2 weeks. Oh, good, Mike.
Oh, thank you, Mike, for getting
He's
the book.
already ordered a book. So we have to talk about my dad's life work. This is, if you don't know him, this is a great way to get to know him, I think. Having finished it now,
Yeah.
I would say this incorporates so much of your personality and
You
my
were
upbringing.
one of the dang kids.
Yeah, it's me.
Not only the one at home, but I had him as a student in my classroom as well.
That's
So,
right.
Yeah.
And Mom did for homeschool one
Homeschool
year.
year, and
then you
I had
right
a regular
after.
6th grade classroom
Yeah.
with Ross and with Drew. So we had both the guys.
All the kids. Does your dad care about Apple? I don't know as much anymore as it matters in your...
Well, I just bought a Apple
Right,
computer,
to bring it
and
full
I have
circle.
Apple. I have an iPhone.
So we found during that live stream, I think, or it may have been around that time, the chat plus you and me found an iMac you liked for the
Yeah.
price.
That's right.
So
You
what
helped
did-
me shop right during the live stream.
So what'd you get? What are the specs?
Oh gosh, that technical stuff. Well, it was a 2018 reconditioned iMac.
Mm-hmm. 21 and a half inch, I think. It's not the big one.
Yeah.
It's not this big.
No. Yeah, and it's great. And
Mhm.
buying it reconditioned, it was cheaper than anything I was being offered on Apple or anything else.
Yeah, that's for
and,
sure. Way
But
cheaper.
it felt new. I mean, it came out of the box, and I should have done an unboxing. It was
Yeah.
clean and nice.
And I think you got the 4K one, if I remember correctly.
And it's beautiful. And
Mhm.
of course, I'm doing so much Google stuff
Right.
that it probably wouldn't matter what I have. I have a Chromebook just
Uh-huh.
for traveling and that kind of stuff. So
Do you remember how much it was?
the iMac?
Yeah.
It was just under 600, I think.
Wow.
That's
So
a
in
good
the
deal. Isn't
yeah,
it?
500 range, because I'm sure whenever we say Whenever we say you bought a 2018 iMac, everyone's like, what? Why would you do that? Buy
Yeah.
this new M1 whatever, which I tried.
Right.
But the difference is you wanted an all-in-one. You were always into the
I don't like the
all-in-one.
junk all over my desk.
Because we were already talking about when I told him you can get a refurbished Mac Mini for $500 this, and
get
I was
a
like,
mini and get a monitor,
but you need to
and
buy
get
a monitor,
and
you said I do want a webcam. That's
yeah,
important.
I like the webcam.
So I was like, well, now you got to find a monitor with a webcam or a monitor plus webcam.
Yeah.
And by the time I was stacking it all up,
there were better ways to go, and the amount of video I do.
Yeah.
I mean, the last 2 videos I put out online were just from my phone.
Oh, yeah.
I just recorded your mom doing an art project.
Show them your phone. They're probably curious.
Oh.
This hasn't been in here in a while, but
this was true.
This was the 11 Pro Max that we reviewed, but now he's got it. Show the old, he already said that. Show the old 11 Pro. Chris Norton says, I like my iPhone and iPad and a PVC, which I hardly use. Interesting.
What's a PVC?
I'm not sure what maybe he meant PC. I'm not sure.
PVC. PBJ.
What's that? Do you know what
Peanut butter and jelly.
Oh. That's probably it. Whether 8mm was aesthetic back then also?
8mm.
Do you mean film?
Video. There's 8mm video.
Oh, okay.
Now
you know about that.
Now I go back to 8mm film.
Right.
There was Super 8.
Super
8mm is the oldest.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, those old cameras. That's when the first movie that my friend and I made that was any good, actually won an award, was called Phone.
Phone.
You can't call for help. And it was before there were cell phones. This is the 70s.
Slogan.
Yeah, and it was the phones that are on your wall, hung on your wall and have a cord.
Right.
It was before cordless phones even. And they came alive somehow. I think there was some kind of...
When did you make that?
Probably mid-70s.
Uh-huh.
We did some stop motion animation.
Oh, wow.
The phones, the hand part, the handpiece would slide out, and then the cord would pull the rest of the unit forward. So it would crawl around like a zombie phone.
Oh, I see.
And it would attack people. So we used ketchup and lots of salsa and lots of gore.
You can't call for help.
You can't call for help. So
that's funny.
But that was made with regular 8, not Super 8. Regular 8 movie film.
Wow.
Which we had to send away to be processed. You'd film it, couldn't watch it. You had to send it away and make sure it worked. You'd come back in about 2 weeks, and you'd have about 3 minutes of footage, of raw footage, and you'd edit that down, and you'd start again. So making a movie on film in those days was a big deal.
Yeah.
When somebody showed me a video camera, I was like, what?
What?
You can watch it? Couldn't do animation in those days very easily, but on video.
And now you can do... What last videos did you do on your phone? Now what are you making?
Well, I've been doing a thing, and I think we put a link into
Let me double check.
It's called Teachers Pay Teachers.
Oh yeah.
So
it's there.
Teachers Pay Teachers is a website, mostly teachers and homeschool parents and things use, where they can find lesson plans and things. So they can go on there and do a unit on the rainforest, or they can look up an art project, something they want to do with their class or with their kids or their students. And they're cheap. They're $2, $3, $4 for something. And I published several different things, some scripts, like radio drama scripts. Did a Thanksgiving script, like 400 people went for this Thanksgiving script.
Tailosive
the real
teaches.
Thanksgiving. Yeah. And we have a Christmas script called Santa Size, where Santa loses a bunch of weight.
I remember that one.
You were in that, I think.
Yeah.
You were sound effects or something. You didn't want to be in the play.
I was Mike Shy, or whatever it's called.
So there's Santa Size, and there's another nativity Toy Story, where the nativity scene comes to life, like in Toy Story.
Oh, I see.
And
cool.
then I did. Your mom does some really cool art, like poinsettias for Christmas, and then some other rainbow and different kinds of art projects. And it just lent itself to recording that on video. So we just recorded that on video, and I put it in iMovie on my phone. And
you edited it on the phone
just a little bit, just to give it a little title and make
that's
make
neat.
it good. And then we upload that onto Teachers Pay Teachers.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of like YouTube, except you have to pay. It's like $2.
Well, you had a free one
$3.
at first.
Thanksgiving was free.
Thanksgiving
That's why I
discount.
think it sold 400.
Yeah.
It sold 400 for free.
The free ones do good.
Yeah.
That's cool. Oh, what Ben says, what did you use to edit that film? Was it physical?
Yeah,
editing?
you run you can get a little editing device. It's hilarious. It's got a little screen with a projector bulb in it, and then you you put the film on these rolls and you hand crank it through.
Right.
And then you find the frame that you wanted. And we had a nice little editor where you could push down on a button and it would poke a hole through the film, so you'd mark it that way.
Oh, I see.
And then you pull the film out, and then you'd have to literally cut it with a razor blade and tape, cut out what you don't want, and then tape it back together. And there were special splices, they called them, splices. You could splice it. So
Literal
editing
cut.
editing film was splicing. They called it splicing.
Wow.
So you'd cut out, and the old ended up on the cutting room floor. Have you ever heard that expression?
Yeah.
It's very literal because they're running the film through, cutting that out, and just throw it on the floor or throw it in the trash.
Wow.
And that stuff becomes your
That's
becomes your
fascinating.
outtakes because you literally took them out.
Right.
So yeah, the more recent, in the last 20 years, the non-linear editing like you do with your what do you use these days?
Final Cut.
Cut, and that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean they use the same terms like cut.
Right. That's what's
you're
funny
cutting
to me.
things out, and you're moving little clips and pieces out. Clips.
Well, there's a lot of old terminologies that hung around, like bug. The stem of a software bug.
Yeah.
Is in the old days, the big computers that took up rooms would literally get bugs crawling through the circuitry,
cockroaches,
and would get stuck in the electronics, and it would cause a there's a bug in the system.
Yeah.
But we still call it a bug.
Yeah.
There's no bugs involved.
It's a virus. Well, yeah.
That terminology stuck around.
Yeah, we did a lot of fun stuff. I used to edit audio that way too, reel-to-reel audio tapes. I worked in radio for a while, and so we recorded everything on reel-to-reel, and you just use a grease pencil to mark, and then cut and splice or tape the reel-to-reel tape together.
Wow.
So that's how I made VHS last a little longer. I had some experience with.
So you knew how to take it apart.
Taping things.
I'd
back
never
together.
seen you do that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
A couple times.
They did
save a video.
People were bringing up YouTube's blocked the dislike number. Did you see that?
No.
You can't see the number of dislikes anymore. You can dislike, but
it's just. Is it just too negative? They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings?
Yeah, I think that's basically the logic. But now people just comment dislike. And then everyone likes that comment.
Like the dislike. That's what they should call it.
I don't know how it really solves anything, but that one Paul guy is like setting up a easy pitch for me. He's saying, "What's your dad's perspective of the success of your channel? Is he proud? Is he ashamed?"
No, we've been very proud. We go bragging all the time. It's our famous son, Drew, the one that you've probably heard of. Drew, you've heard of Tailosive. We start a lot of conversations that way. It's never gotten us in a restaurant or anywhere. I tried it at the Apple store the last time I went to the Apple store.
Oh, really?
I didn't hit somebody that knew you.
Dang
but
it.
It's probably a seasonal employee. They don't. They're not.
It's funny finding places that do recognize and those that don't, because Randy was recognized out in Virginia, but
from SpaceX or from Tailosive?
No, Randy's just on the podcast.
Oh, that's right.
Nick is the one
Nick's
at
the one
SpaceX. Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't solve anything, but what do I think? Oh, Michael's asking what you think of the MacBook Pro. I guess this is your first time seeing it.
It's extremely clear. It's I can tell because I'm looking on my computer quite a lot these days, and yours just looks like somebody turned the lights on by comparison. It's like, whoa, there's a
they went thicker with this generation. I don't know if you could tell.
No, well,
but
yeah,
they brought back MagSafe from the old models.
Do you like that?
Yeah, I would have been fine if they didn't, but the fact that it's there is nice, I guess.
If I've had trouble with lapbooks, MacBooks, laptops, it's always been the power cord.
Oh, really?
And where it goes in, it seems to get gummed up. You get junk in there or whatever.
Yeah. Because you still have a laptop that you use occasionally.
Yes.
It's
it's kind of your mom's, but yeah, it's the cheese cutter little one that it's real thin.
That one uses the Type-C charging.
Yeah.
Has that acted up on you?
No, not that so much, but those cords get old and brittle and start to crack. So.
Well, they braided this one. I don't know if that helps.
Oh, it's braided inside the vinyl?
Yeah, it's like, it's not a silicone.
Oh, okay.
It's like a fabric outside.
Yeah. Well, I think those are better. I've replaced with those, but yeah, I think that's, the Achilles heel of these things is the power.
Right.
So maybe the MagSafe was just their way of...
The one difference you can see down there with this MagSafe is it's removable from the brick.
Oh.
I don't know if you remember the older laptops, but the
they
cable was stuck.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
It wouldn't come out.
What?
So now that just pops out.
Okay. So you can replace the cable without having to replace the transformer. That's
140 watts.
I think that's smart.
Yeah. I like that choice. This is the first Mac ever with a notch. I don't know if you even noticed that one. The mouse just goes behind it.
Oh, okay.
So if you want a quick way to get rid of the mouse,
the notch is there. If you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you do a screenshot, does the notch show up or does it not? Okay.
No, it just pretends it's not there.
I would forget it's there eventually.
Did you notice it before I pointed it out?
This has big bezels, your MacBook Pro, but that's never really bothered me because my eyes go right to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I don't know what people are worried about when there's some bezel action there. I don't know.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned that you were still using, until recently, the 24-inch iMac. Mm-hmm. They've actually brought back a 24-inch iMac, but it's all colorful now, and it's the 16:9 aspect ratio. Right. How did you feel about that design?
I didn't care for that.
No.
I don't like the ratio, but again, it's what you get used to. So I don't think it matters big time. Mm-hmm. I think they must be trying to recapture the old when Steve Jobs returned to Apple, brought in the first iMacs, and we bought one.
Yeah, that was the family Mac.
Probably about the second generation of those, with the
big blue or
fastback kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Jelly Mac, we used to call those, and they had all the different colors you could order, different reds and greens. And I was just at our school, and I saw they still have my old ones.
They still got them?
About 5 of them.
Are they being used, or are they just...
No, not right now, but
okay.
I have one that was mine that I kept, and I have it at home, and I'll use it. So they're still usable. There's software that I just love that did not make the jump to OS 10.
The big jump to OS 10.
Yeah, it stayed at 9.
OS 9.
And so the OS 9, Jelly Macs, and some of my... 2 of my laptops still work and still run.
Good.
Those will jump over to 9 if you can boot it up in 9.
Yeah.
And still use some of that old software.
What were they called? Did they have a different term?
Mac. I think it's a MacBook.
Was an iBook? I thought I remember an iBook at some point.
Yeah, it might have been. I don't remember. I'll have
really
to look
old
now.
laptops, but
yeah. I love them.
Let's see if there's. Oh, Marngel's asking what Apple products do you use in total? Everything. So you've got an 11 Pro Max.
I have iPad. I have a lapbook.
Is that the same iPad you've had for a while?
I think it's my second one.
Oh,
the third one I used, but kind of mine from the school.
Oh,
so issued to me from the school, but I gave that one back because it was still
wasn't yours
new enough that it could be updated.
Uh-huh.
So a kid's probably using that one now. But my second one I still use. Mostly just use it for Kindle.
Right.
I mean, I can jump out of Kindle.
Reader.
It's good if you like to read on a Kindle. I think it's better than a Kindle reader. And if everything else goes out of date, it seems to keep running Kindle somehow.
Oh, really?
And that's good because when I open up a book, I ought to just read that book. It's just too easy to jump over to Safari or jump over.
There's a lot of distractions built in.
So does that answer it? We have Phones, pads.
Do you have a watch on?
Oh, and I do.
Oh, there's one.
But that was a gift from Drew, so that was
the Series
that was
3.
a brand new one.
You're probably due for an upgrade there.
It works.
It
It
gets
good.
the job done.
I like the watch for.
Good.
I like the ability to get a text.
Yeah.
When I'm engrossed in conversation with someone and I get a text and I could just kind of go, and just look and see, was that something I need to deal with it, or is it just somebody that I checking in? So
that's the biggest thing.
It's nice because to dig out a phone in the middle of a conversation is pretty rude.
Yeah.
But to just do that, you can get away with it. I mean, it's sort of a non-verbal way of saying, hey, I need to be somewhere else. But I can kind of...
I just say do a side comment. Some people were like, it'll come across as rude if you check the watch while talking. But I just say a little comment. I'll say something like, oh, that's not important.
Yeah.
I'll slap
You're more important than this. You could get away with that.
Andy did that on The Office once, I think.
Oh, did he?
It was like,
I
want
want
you
a
to
text, but I want you to know I'm not going to respond.
Come into this really important meeting and say something important happened. But it doesn't matter what it is. And then
your mother's dead.
Yeah, then Aaron comes in and says your mother's passed away.
That doesn't matter.
I don't care.
This meeting's too important.
And the client is like, you have to take this.
It's your mother.
So he takes this fake phone call. It's just Daryl on the IDD.
Yes.
The
I don't
first
know
in
about
99.
The iBook. I did have one of those.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that one at home's iBook or
It might be iBook.
I think I have an iBook.
Yeah.
It's white.
Uh-huh.
And it's
plastic.
very plasticky, pretty thick,
Right.
pretty heavy.
And it had
I had two of those, and one of them you used a lot. It had those games on it. You liked.
Demo Rising.
And then the other one the school bought when that one had been. They said I could use it for videos and stuff at school, but it's so old it was discontinued and discarded, and I keep it, and I used it this week, in fact.
That's cool. People are saying you seem to be very caught up with tech. We need more if possible, of course. Ben says, what was your impression of Steve Jobs, especially in the early years of Apple? So yeah, you were around for all that birth of the company and everything.
I remember going into a little shop in Cupertino.
Yeah.
My brother said, my brother lived there. He worked for IBM.
Oh, okay.
But I was visiting. We went into a shop and he goes, you got to see this thing. It's an Apple, but it's called a Macintosh. And it was the boxy little...
Yeah.
And we got on there and I remember it had Mac Paint going on it.
So what kind of store was it? Was it an Apple?
It was a computer store.
Or just
but
a
they
computer?
Had,
okay.
Yeah, at that time everybody was, there are all kinds of computers being introduced.
Right.
And at that time the Mac came out. So that must have been about 84.
And was Steve Jobs in the news much? Do you remember hearing about him?
Yeah, I probably was not aware of Steve Jobs until the Macintosh, but of course with Apple and Apple IIs were really big in schools, particularly Apple IIs were all over the schools. So I used to use those quite a lot. There was an Apple III.
Oh, right. I remember.
But that Apple III was...
Vaguely.
It didn't have a lot of software support.
Yeah.
What you basically did is you booted it up as an Apple II. It had an emulator. So you'd emulate it as an Apple II and then use it as an Apple II. So Apple III didn't get a lot of traction. My impressions of Steve Jobs when I heard of him and saw about articles about him, that he was just kind of a big jerk. Hard to work with, hard to be around. I mean, I think I've read 2 different biographies of him, so I'm aware of
the Walter Isaacson.
the stories behind. Yeah, I read the old Walter Isaacson.
Yeah.
I'm aware of all the stories. I mean, it must have been really hard to work with, but that's what it takes. Somebody.
Right.
He wasn't really a techie as much as he was a visionary.
Yeah, he just had an idea.
How does technology going to integrate into society in a way that it changes it? That's what he was interested in. And he had people around him. I'd like to see some more about Steve Woz, because he's an interesting guy, and some of the code that he wrote, people say is just artwork. Because I mean, the original Mac, and I had one. Eventually bought a used one. It had the entire operating system on a floppy disk. So when you started up a Mac, it would sit and blink a question mark at you, like, you can't do anything. What do you want from me? Until you plugged in a floppy disk. And you plug in the floppy disk and it booted up the operating system.
Oh, okay.
And then from there you could plug in if you didn't have a hard drive where you had stored some of your apps and things.
Mm-hmm.
So that came along. But yeah, I mean, a lot of PC people would always talk down on the Mac, and it was like, I'd look at them and like, what are you talking about? They'd say,
that hasn't stopped.
well, they used to say there were two kinds of people. There were the Mac people,
Mm-hmm.
or the Apple people, who like to actually produce and do things on their computers. And then there were IBM people, and in these days what they did was try to get their computer to do things.
It's just
Because
making it
just
work.
getting it to work was a
Uh-huh.
big deal. You had to boot up this and run this and change off this. And, if I worked at school on one, I'd put in some software and I'd put it in, and it would kind of freak out. And then they'd say, oh, what you got to do is go down through this extensions folder and click out it. You can't have the clock run and run this software. So turn off the clock part.
Uh-huh. You have to switch off all these
You
things.
you had to be part of a community to make it work. And
Well, it's kind of like what you said about cars, is that people who work on cars seem to always be working on cars. There's always some project.
they always say he's such a great mechanic. He's always in there working on his car. And I'm thinking, if you're a great mechanic,
Shouldn't the car not need
yeah,
work?
it shouldn't need so much work.
Yeah.
But
It's kind of a fundamental different placement a lot of people put in the computer world of just,
Right.
it should be a tool that does its job and I
Yes.
don't have to think about it, versus something that I build myself.
yes,
And mod.
I get that.
Modular and customizable.
I would love to be more like that. I mean,
Mhm.
I built a computer once, where
Mhm.
you buy the power supply and the logic board, and you buy all the stuff
Yeah.
and plug it in there, and then you load in a system and all that.
Mhm.
That was kind of cool, and there's a lot of pride from that. But if you want to make a video or produce something that's interesting looking, or at least has you just couldn't beat the Apple from early on. And
Right.
I still don't think you can.
I think that's what their fundamental core has been from the beginning, is just trying to make it an intuitive. And
Mm-hmm.
Jobs often described it as, it's not a device, it's just an extension of yourself.
Right.
It just
Right.
fits into your
Yeah.
daily routine. It doesn't have to be something you
They put
set
out-
up or think about.
Like McPaint and then McDraw and McWrite
Mm-hmm.
and different ones. And, the idea that you could draw and make your own graphics, I just was all over that. When I
Yeah.
was in school and I had to make a really cool thing for my teaching project, as your training as a teacher.
Sure.
And I'd turn it in and it would have all these little graphics and images and boxes and things like that. And people are, whoa, man,
It's
what
not
are
just
you
text.
Yeah. And I was just, it was a Mac. I can do that.
Right. You could get a lot done. What was your dad's first iPhone?
Mm.
I think it was
Well,
the 5.
You had it. Yeah. You had one before I did.
Right. We had a long talk about that.
You
Do
persuaded your mom that this would be the way to go.
remember?
And I had a flip phone for a long time.
I think
But
it was-
I think it was a 5.
It was after our big family talk about the iPad. Do you remember that? We had
Yeah.
the new iPad something or other came out, and I might have been the 2 or the 3, and I was like, I want to get this, and I'll use it for school, and I promise I won't turn into a
Zombie.
summer zombie. That was
Yeah,
the term
yeah,
you
yeah.
always used. And the answer was basically, no, I don't think you need an iPad. But I was going into high school, or I was in high school, and you
Mhm.
were like, well, if you're going to be in high school, we want you to have a phone. We can contact you. So how about an iPhone? And I was like, even better. Because that I can take
do
with
that.
me to school.
Well,
and
you did. You had an iPad
later.
in high school, and you carried it around to classes and
Yeah.
everything. Somehow
Yeah.
you got away with that.
I think it was the confidence.
Yeah.
If you show up in a classroom with something that's not official, or they've never
Well, they
just
weren't
never,
letting anybody have devices at that
No.
time.
This
But
was-
you always carried
this
it
was
in.
kind of before Chromebooks were even popular. This was pre laptops and all that in
Right,
schools.
right.
But I just carried it in and just started using it.
Yeah, you used the pencil.
And I wasn't playing games. I wasn't
Mhm.
watching YouTube. So my mentality was, look busy,
Yeah.
and they won't question. They'll be like, well,
Don't
he's-
make eye contact. Just act like you're.
he's doing something. And I'd always pull the environmental thing on it. I'd say, can I turn this in digitally? That way I don't have to waste precious paper. You got to phrase it in a way they can't.
Our green little boy.
But I did. I was like, I don't see the point in us all using all these papers when I could just take a picture of the document they would send, and then I would write on top of it and I would check the boxes and be like, can I just email you this? Or do you hate trees? And they'd say, well, I guess you can email. So they, most of the time, didn't fight me on that. Yeah. There was a teacher in college, even, intro to business, and she did not want people using laptops in class, which I thought was funny. But
yeah, that all changed really fast with COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, there were holdout teachers even till then.
Yeah.
That were like, no, I don't want, and then all of a sudden they had to be online and everybody had to be online.
No, we had to focus. But there was a kid using a laptop in class because she was walking through stuff we did from home online.
Yeah.
But she didn't want us following along because she's like, I can't see the screen. You could be doing anything. So she was telling kids to put their laptops away, but I was just in a different form factor. Oh, okay. It was just that the screen wasn't up like a laptop.
Yeah.
I had the iPad flat with a pencil. So I looked like everyone else with a
and you got
pen
away
and
with
paper.
it.
And she walked by me at one point, and she stopped and went, and then just kind of walked. And she decided,
I don't know what to do with that. I will categorize that in, I won't respond.
Yeah. Man drives a Model. Oh, he's talking about Wozniak. Mike is saying he drives a Model S and manages a orbital trash cleaning startup and a few other projects.
Orbital trash cleaning.
Did you hear about that? He started a new company for space trash.
What are they going to do?
Yeah, that's what I couldn't figure out. I was like, you're going to tell SpaceX to go
get it? They need a big trash can that goes around, orbits, and it swallows up. Or like
with the big reacher claw that grabs. It's a big robot.
I'm thinking of the Doomsday Machine from the original Star Trek series.
Oh.
Where it was like a giant open mouth. Like it looked like a big carrot with an open mouth on one end, and it just would gobble up stuff, planets and starships. They need something like that orbits and just swallows everything.
I was gonna say, I guess all that a company like that could really do is just track the space debris and try to manage it. But if
you want a high-powered laser and just fry it,
if you wanted to go catch it, your best bet would just be Starship telling SpaceX to go get it.
Well, the problem is those fragments up there are traveling at 20,000 miles an hour plus.
Yeah, you can't.
So even a little even if you were able to chew something up and there was just little slivers of it left, even those would be dangerous to the space station or something like that. I think I've seen pictures back with the space shuttle where they had like bullseyes in the windshield of the space shuttle from just hitting little particles of things, just even grains of sand.
I think they mentioned the Dragon capsule has some level of shield on the outside that's just there for debris, not for anything else, just to stop anything from going in.
Armageddon, that movie where they blew up a nuclear bomb, they said that the bomb, just vaporized all of the particles of the...
Oh, wow.
Isn't that what's happening later? We were going to mention that, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. There's unless it's been canceled, sometimes they get delayed and stuff, but I think there's a Starlink launch in like 20 minutes or less, something like that. But Ben's asking, did you play any old video game consoles? You were probably around for the start of all that.
Oh yeah, I had Pong, the
first
Pong, yeah, Pong, and then my cousin actually owns several like Donkey Kong and Pac-Man and those.
The original?
And yeah, he'd put them in 7-Elevens and things.
Oh, wow.
And
That's cool.
Collect the quarters, and I think he had to pay rent for the space.
Oh, I see.
I don't know how they worked that out, but he'd fix them, and every once in a while he'd take them home, and if I was around, I'd play with. He'd rig it up so you could just play Donkey Kong. What was the real big one was the alien ones. I can't think of it. Space Invaders.
Oh,
Space Invaders. That was a big hit.
I was thinking Galactica.
There was a glitch in Space Invaders that people learned about. You could win it every time if you played against the glitch.
Because you couldn't just update that The software
No, they're
was
not
there.
on a network. Yeah. I don't know.
I almost think we've been talking about Apple in the gaming space a lot lately, just because, this transition from Intel.
Right.
And people are like, now that they're doing their own silicon, they'll be much better at gaming. And I keep saying it's never been a hardware limitation. It's always been a software, like game devs not optimizing. And part of the reason I've said I don't think Apple cares about gaming, I don't think they're gonna, try to buy titles or anything, is because the gaming industry is not like as extremely profitable as people may think. And also, the reason I'm glad I'm not, well, not glad, but I'm okay not being super involved with the gaming world anymore, is because everyone just seems mad all the time about every game. Because
they're almost like movies now, aren't they?
Expensive, buggy movies, because every game that comes out is like unfinished and has all these problems, and you have to pay $60 for it, and then there's DLC on top of the $60. Yeah. So before you know it, you spend $100 in the one update can break everything. Oh no. And the fact that over-the-air updates are a thing is nice for certain demographics, but in the gaming space, I think it's allowed devs to be really lazy in that they just kind of not finish something and then send it out and say, well, we'll patch
it later.
We'll fix it later, but let's charge money for it now.
Yeah.
And I was thinking back in those days, they didn't have that option. So they had to design the game and make sure everything worked.
Yeah.
Because if there was a glitch like that,
right,
it was there permanently.
Yeah, yeah.
And we almost kind of need, I think, more of that in today's world, because all I hear from the gaming world is
self-contained,
like, don't release this saying we'll fix it later, or eventually we'll patch it. But like, all these major titles are being known for just being betas that they throw out there and forget about. So
I used to play Breakout, which was Wozniak and Jobs.
Oh, they did
work together at Atari to make that work.
Wonder what Jobs did.
I think he convinced. It was in the movie, one of the movies.
Several of them.
He convinced them that it had to be color. They'd never had a color game. You got to have color. Got to have color. That was his contribution.
The movie portrayed it a few different ways. In one movie, I think he said, Woz, come help me with this project, and the project was going to pay Jobs like $6,000.
Oh yeah.
And then he said, Woz, come on, we'll split the money. And Woz was like, oh, how much are we getting paid? And he was like, $700.
Ripped off his own.
I don't know the truth to that,
brother.
It's like another Jobs move.
Maybe it was.
What was your dad's first Apple product?
I think it must have been the original Mac, and it had been updated before I bought it from. It was the boss that I worked for at the radio station. He'd updated it to 512K of RAM. So
512.
That was the RAM, and then there was no hard drive, so it had a dual floppy. You had a floppy in the console, and then a external floppy usually sat on top. So you could boot up.
Wow.
You could boot up.
Guess how much is in this thing, storage wise?
Storage? Oh,
yeah.
Or RAM? Well, how much RAM?
Just storage, not RAM.
Terabyte?
More.
5, 10, 8 terabytes? 8. I guess it should be in factors of 8.
I remember some crazy metric some article had when the iMac Pro came out. This said, this new iMac has 11 times the processing power of the Macintosh. And then it was like 11 times, okay. No, it's 11 times every Macintosh that was ever built.
Oh, gee.
Every one they produced and sold, put together, times 11 is in one. The iMac.
That's a way to look at it.
So when you just say 11, it's like, okay. And then, no, all of them.
All of them.
Stuffed together.
Well, it was a cool little computer. And I later bought, brand new, a Mac Classic 2. So it looked just like the original, the little gray beige box.
Yeah.
But it had an 80 megabyte hard drive. So I had 80 megs of hard drive.
A lot.
Probably 8 megs of RAM.
I wonder what the ratio is of like how much content, because content like data back then was probably physically smaller too.
Mostly, yeah. I don't think there was zero photos,
Right. You didn't
zero
have to worry
video.
about that.
So, there were some graphics. Um,
Text documents.
Most of it was just text.
So 80 megabytes could actually hold quite a bit.
You were fine.
Nowadays, you can't fit an operating system on 80 megabytes.
Well, that's the thing that's amazing to me is that a floppy disk in those days was about a megabyte.
Wow.
A good one.
Yeah.
I think they doubled at some point. But I mean, the hard plastic looking cased floppy drive, 1 meg.
Wow.
Now, on that original Mac, that needed the operating system and then whatever software you're running.
Yeah, that held everything.
All on that one floppy.
Wow.
So it was crazy. The operating system was just, like I said, it was a work of art to have it, a point-and-click interface. It works just like what you've got now. And yet it was just on a little floppy. So the disk operating system that was, later for the Windows machines, didn't do much more. I had to work on a DOS disk operating system machine all the time, and there was no mouse, and you had to know all these secret codes to get it to open up a file, and it was I hated it. So the idea of pointing and clicking on the file you wanted was awesome.
And Apple makes a ton of money on mobile games anyway. Why are people still talking about a rumored redesign for the iPod? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know why. iPod's like an app for your phone now, isn't it?
Right. Well, they just call it music. It's not even iPod.
Apple.
They're still selling an iPod Touch
really?
on the website, which every year we keep saying, is this going to be it?
I think that was maybe your first Apple product. Was
it? The first I bought. I mean, you handed me your old iBook at one point, I think, and you said you can use this for work and stuff. But Ron Grant says programmers were more efficient then.
They sure were.
I wonder if it's efficiency or just the amount of data we use now is just insanely high if you think about photos and how big they are and videos.
Yeah, they weren't having to, imagine how we're going to do that. There were some cool graphics programs though on there, and you could scan in a photo and then tweak it around and such.
Huh. Does your dad hate Windows as much as you, Drew? Well, you had to use Windows for work a lot.
I've used it a lot at work. Things were... Our biggest joke with Windows early on, like Windows 95, I think, or something, was like, okay, to shut down the computer, go to Start, then find...
Would you like to start to shut down?
Yeah, let's start the shutdown process.
It was just a bunch of options you had to mess around with.
Well, it was just not very intuitive. But
have you ever used Windows 10?
I probably have had to. Other than for a while there, it just felt clunky, and I was clunky on it because I was looking on the left side instead of the right side for certain things, just because you were sort of Mac muscle memory. But
right.
Ultimately, I've landed with Macs just because they've always lasted so long for me.
Oh yeah,
they're so comfortable and easy to use. The menus are laid out like I learned and like I did on the original Mac. I mean, so much of what's across the top of a Mac was across the top of the Mac that I had in the original. So I mean, they and that's not true with Windows. Things
they rearranged
have just been
everything.
All changed over the years. So.
I liked 7 when I had my PC. That's what it had.
It's 7,
and I didn't really have anything wrong with it. It worked fairly well. I thought the UI was kind of dated, but it did its job. And then 8 came out and broke everything because they were trying to combine the touch screen interface with the keyboard and mouse interface.
I think I was pretty proficient at 95.
That was your. That was the one.
I knew where everything was. I could make it work. I could load software on there. I knew what to shut down so it wouldn't tweak out trying to run. Doing robot programming and stuff. We had to use Windows 95 all the time for our Lego robots and things.
I don't think I've ever used 95 on anything, from what I can remember.
I think that was
me and Ross
the
probably
last one that was any good.
The one we messed around on was probably XP.
XP too. Yeah, I remember XP was good.
It's hard to find the iPod on the website, but yeah, it's still there.
That's funny that they have to have that still. I guess It's for babies. What's it for?
Well, I don't think there is a good argument personally. I've been saying they should kill it for years now, just because you can buy old iPhones that are much better for cheaper, but everyone keeps saying, well, the iPod's good for kids, and I'm like, just
For what?
hold your old iPhone to them.
What happened to those little squares and
Those are gone.
Those are all gone.
Nanos and shuffles.
Cool. Nanos, yeah, those were cool.
Now they have a bigger emphasis on Apple Music, which those didn't have internet.
Right.
So
you could just use it as a. Well, that's why it was a pod. It was
right. You stored stuff locally. Now they want everything.
Yeah.
The big
Spotify, you're good. That's what I figured.
The big advertisement back in the day with the first iPod, right? Wasn't it like 1,000 songs in your pocket? Mm-hmm. And now people are comparing it to the Apple Watch ads because it says 40 million songs on your wrist, but it's not storing all of those.
Right.
It's just
right.
yeah. Maybe you'll know this. Ron Grant says, I sold TRS-80 at Radio Shack.
Oh, yeah.
Then I opened the first Macy's Computer Center in Atlanta in 1983. We sold Apple, HP, and Compaq.
Cool.
You knew the
Yep. I knew. My brother had a Compact, a TRS-80. We used to call him a Trash 80. Tandy Corporation made those. You would go to Radio Shack and we learned a little bit of basic computer programming, and we could make it do things. We bought an Exidy Sorcerer, my brother and I. It had a little ROM pack on it, so you could program different Fortran, and you could program with BASIC. The Exidy Sorcerer, I think that company's gone.
Yeah.
But it was a little higher end, probably spec wise, than a TRS-80. And I made a game called, it was a Battlestar Galactica game.
Oh, okay.
And it was basically XY coordinates, remember doing those in math?
Yeah.
So it would randomly place a little spaceship at a random X and a random Y. And then you had to guess basically what was it?
It's like Battleship. Kind
of. You had to guess the X and Y.
Yeah.
And if you were in it, then it would use a little, what's called a poke routine. It would draw a little asterisk at that location. If it hit the spaceship, if it was the same, then you got a point.
Oh, okay.
X equals X plus 1.
Yeah.
And then you would just keep going on with that until you got tired of it. My brother made a horse racing game.
Oh, really?
Where you'd bet on a horse.
Oh, I see.
And then they would advance with a random number generator. So it would, if the right number came up, it would move the horse forward. And the computer was so fast that the horses actually went. And if yours was the first one across the finish line, you'd win. And then
that's gambling.
It was gambling at home, but it was an educational experience for it. But that's what you did with computers in those days.
Right, that's all
there wasn't software. You didn't go to the store and buy software. You got a computer and you started making your own stuff. And you could get a magazine or something that would have a whole big program, and it would be like 10 pages of code.
Oh,
and
wow.
Some guys would, the new program came out. So for the next 3 days, they'd sit and type out the code. That was what it was to be a computer guy in those days.
I wanted to see, because we're getting closer here. Yep. It looks like they're still going through with the mission. Oh, do you want to react to it as we wrap up?
Yeah, I'd love to. We'll be space commentator.
Yeah. I'll have to find a good way to show it to them. I don't think SpaceX will care.
This is just a couple of years ago that.
Yeah, that's too much.
You and I were. I went outside at 4 a.m. for some crazy reason, and I saw all the SpaceX satellites going across the sky.
Oh, that's right. I remember you telling me
that. And I texted you, and you happened to be up too, and we were both standing outside watching that string of. That was cool.
Yeah. Now, I haven't seen any recently. Have you? Of the
I wouldn't know what to
in the
look
sky?
for now. Don't they sort of reach some kind of
Right,
geosynchronous
really,
something or other?
That's the biggest misconception, because whenever I want to tell someone about Starlink, they say, "Yeah, but we've ruined the night sky. We can't see anything." Go look. Tell me where they are, because
they don't have lights on them.
No, they're not blinking.
Not light bulbs. They're just reflecting sunlight. And they're very reflective because the sun would burn them up if they were sitting out there exposed all the time. So they make reflective surfaces on them, and then they reflect the sunlight down.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in a certain position, you can see them,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not. It's not like we're putting up bright spotlights off. They don't have the power to run lights off the side of their.
No. Well, it wouldn't do anything.
No.
There'd be no point. But also, people think that that's just permanently how it's going to be, and there will just be lights moving everywhere. Where in reality, they're very visible when they first get deployed because they're all together,
And they're low altitude.
and they're low Earth orbit, and they're in this position that reflects the sun very noticeably.
Yeah.
But once they all spread out and the solar panel extends, they're nearly impossible to see. I mean, unless you're really, really looking.
If you knew where to.
So
look.
there's I think over 2,000 now. Constantly. That's how you guys are all watching this, is over Starlink. But if you go out in the night sky and look for them, it's pretty
Wozniak's going to have a lot of those to clean up if they get when they all go bad.
He's going to have to tell someone.
Did they plan to do anything with them? I mean, eventually, don't you have to replace them, or you gotta have to do something with them?
They're designed in an orbit where if they're left untouched for 5 years, they'll burn up.
Okay, so they tumble down and burn up.
Unless you want them to keep going. They have little ion thrusters on them.
Ion thrusters.
So if you
fire the ion thruster.
yeah, if you want it to keep its position in orbit, you can keep it going.
Huh.
But 5 years is what happens if you lose.
It's an ion
connection.
Thruster.
I don't know if it's probably not ion, but it's
it's
something on board.
I know for certain that there have been spacecraft that have ion propulsion.
It might be ion because it's not going fast or far.
Right.
And it's only needs. It's only electricity that it has to go off of. So.
Well, it could have a little tank of gas of some kind in there.
Yeah, I think they do.
That they could shoot it out and position.
Yeah, they do have some onboard gas, I think. So it handles the basics. But Alejandro super chatted here.
Oh, nice.
He says, I applied and got a job at an Apple store today. Thanks to learning about Apple products on your channel. Thanks for doing what you do. Wow.
Look
Thank
at that.
you.
Buddy, you're being a...
I'm helping the machine. And Google got a cut of it.
This is an act of charity.
Yeah, that's very nice of you. Thank you. And it's in pounds. So
pounds.
He's probably in United Kingdom or something.
He's going to make a lot of pounds at
the
Apple store.
If you say, I lost 50 pounds, it means very different things in different countries. Let's see. 10 seconds. We should
perfect.
Transition.
9, 8. Do we still have audio?
Yeah, we can.
1, 0.
They're probably just saying
Oh,
random things. But
how exciting.
There, I'll transition. There, now you can still see us. They're taking off.
What a cool thing to think all of these rockets that have been going up. See, now, this, as a kid, once in a while, they quit interrupting this broadcast to show you the liftoff.
Everyone was like, okay, we get it.
We've seen it. Yeah, big rocket goes up. They quit doing that. I think the second or third landing on the moon, they didn't even.
Really?
Yeah, you just at regular news time they would say, oh, and by the way, somebody's on the moon today.
Yeah,
but
I've noticed that
we've just lost our awe of the whole thing.
Yeah,
I've always loved to watch it.
Anytime I can. Sometimes the launches are at like 2 a.m, and I'm like,
yeah.
Well, I'll watch it the next day.
Well, that's just it. Nowadays you have total access. You can go and see.
Yeah.
Now we're looking from the rocket down towards the thruster, I'm guessing.
So now we're streaming a camera from the rocket that's carrying Starlink satellites back to the ground, watching it over Starlink, streaming our reaction through Starlink all at once.
My head's going to explode. Well, that is cool.
Well, it's still going. They have a few more questions. Oh, what tech does your dad miss the most from the past? I feel like you've kept most of the tech you like. You didn't really lose anything.
Stuff that really worked for me, I still use.
Yeah. It wasn't anything you just
what
left
tech
behind.
do I... Yeah. I'll tell you what. People thought I was a master tech amazing person because I could get what was on my computer to play up on the television screen. The classrooms would have that television screen. And I had to use all kinds of weird patch cords and things to get, RF generator, RF converter from the But nowadays, either wirelessly or through HDMI, it's everybody does it.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah. It's kind of normal.
So I guess what I do miss is being like the go-to guy that could do everything. Because now I get all sweaty when we have to plug in a new television or something. Because it used to take quite a lot, and now it's pretty easy. Now it's one or two cords, and I can't believe it. It's like, you're kidding me. That's all we do.
That we just plug it in.
Plug that in, and it works.
yeah.
So I do miss being. Oh, did it blow up?
No,
we
that's
lost it.
Main engine cut off.
Oh.
And now the second stage disconnected. So that. Oh, I'm too big here. That relit. So this is the stage that keeps going.
Okay.
And then on the side is the booster. Now it's got its fins. That's what's made SpaceX launches so much more interesting than normal launches.
You get a landing.
The takeoff is the boring part.
And then it's short, isn't it? How long is the Dragon's flight? It's like, or Falcon.
Or Falcon. Yeah, it lands usually within about 10 minutes or less.
That's crazy.
Yeah. The fact that it can get something to orbit and come back
within 10 minutes.
If you think about they have the speed here, 7,300 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
That's going to be 0 in a couple minutes.
Right.
And this is accelerating.
Yeah, that one will hit into the 20,000s.
Right.
That's
8,600 kilometers an hour. So that's what's always made Falcon 9 launches so interesting to me, is you get to watch it come back.
Well, what's the Falcon's turnaround time when they land it? How long until they could take off?
It changes. They've been trying to get it down. I think the lowest they got it was like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something. It was within around 20 days, I think, is the quickest.
Well, you think about like,
there's something floating there.
Oh,
I don't know what that is.
That's a problem.
It's always little debris.
Watch where that goes. We might need it later.
Pick that up. It's amazing to me you can send something that high and still have a live view of it. That's
all the
mind-blowing.
You mean
to
the
me.
signal for the?
Yeah, I mean that's not using cell towers. I can't.
Yeah.
See that stuff floating around?
That can't be good.
It'll fall in the ocean.
Some sea turtle will find it.
Oh, Ben's asking, did you watch the first moon landing?
Oh, yes, I did. And I remember, I'm one of those kids that remember so vividly my dad waking me up at my bunk bed at whatever time it was, early dark 30 in the morning, and going into the living room and watching that with the family.
Was it pretty early?
I remember it. Well, it was where I lived. It was dark, morning. It was probably 3 or 4 in the morning or something.
Wow.
And but I was totally into it. I'd watch the liftoff, and NASA had these animations that were not bad for the day that would show here's what the spaceship will do, and it'll turn around and pull the command module and all that. And I used to think, well, how do they get the camera up there? How do they do all this? I didn't understand what animation meant at that time. But so I was really into it.
That's fascinating. It's always kind of heartbreaking to me that we won't have that for the Mars landing. Because
it'll be delayed.
Right. Best case scenario, we'll get like a text.
Yeah.
Landed. Okay. And it'll be like 30 minutes after it happened. So you got this live first view.
Yeah. No, it was
as it was happening.
It's a transformational moment for the world. To all be tuned into that. It's pretty exciting to think that you got to live through that era. And when they talk about like space shuttle pilots, that's old news now, but space shuttle pilots 10, 15 years ago, when you asked them, when did you decide you wanted to be an astronaut? Most of them would say like 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. And that was because that was when the moon landing was. So a lot of people made that decision that day. That's when I decided to become an astronaut. I failed. But oh no!
It's relit.
Oh, that's good. Entry. That's a good thing. That's good fire. Fire that's good.
It's hard to tell sometimes when you watch these if it's going well.
Blowing up.
It's basically what a rocket is.
Yeah.
It's just a big explosion.
Controlled explosion.
And as the rockets get reused, I don't know, will it say down there? The Falcon 9 first stage booster previously supported GPS-3, Turksat 5A, Transporter 2, and 5 Starlink missions. So it's been used 8 times already.
Gosh.
And you'll notice on the side it gets all charred. They turn more dark.
Sure.
And it's during that reentry process, it relights,
Right.
and then it's just
It's
all
just
the fires going
falling.
along.
It's falling
on
and
the
trying
end.
to use the controlled explosion to slow down. I think what's cool too is just that when you think of the Apollo rocket, which was so huge,
Yeah,
and every bit of that was discarded except for maybe the very top capsule
right.
is
Pretty
now
much
in a
all of it.
museum,
Yeah.
unusable. So now to think the most expensive part, and I remember reading critics of the space shuttle program saying, the most expensive part of the space shuttle is disposable. It's the rocket.
Right.
The airplane was cool that they could come back with it and all of that, but
Yeah, that's a misconception too, because
Yeah.
I thought it was a huge deal when the Falcon 9 started landing again, and I was like, wow, that's a game changer. But people were saying, well, space shuttle was reusable. I was like,
not
that's
really.
not the same thing.
Not the same thing.
Having the cabin area
Right.
land is part of it, but the
Well,
most expensive part is
it's a pretty
the
big
booster.
deal to make sure that the cabin section comes back.
Yeah.
However you do
Oh,
that.
here it goes. Here comes the landing. That's the drone ship out in the middle of the ocean. This is usually where we
Doesn't
lose.
it usually
Oh, there's
get-
a seagull.
Seagull, that's a bad idea. Don't land there.
Luckily, he's flying. We usually lose connection about right here.
It's too much intensity. Oh, you can see it? Oh,
Just barely. I think it did it. It's kind of pixelated. Yeah, that's where it dropped.
sure seems like it was coming in fast.
There it goes. Yeah.
Oh, it's there.
Stuck it.
Wow.
Almost a bullseye.
That's awesome.
Under 9 minutes.
That's incredible. No, that is still so exciting. And now
Wow.
this is the thing burning off towards something. Now
Right.
this-
Second
will
engine
do they
cut
show
off.
they actually show the satellites releasing?
They do. So yeah, now you see where it is. It just took off of Florida. Stage 1 landed there. Stage 2 engine just shut off. So now it's at a orbital velocity, 27,000 kilometers an hour. And now the engine's turned off. So it's probably
27,000 kilometers per hour.
yeah. That's what it
Wow,
says.
that seems even faster than I would think.
Altitude of 167 kilometers.
Because
But
I remember the space shuttle would go something like 25,000 miles an hour.
oh wow.
So to be going 27,000.
See, it's off. It's
oh,
not.
that's actually slower. Excuse me.
Oh yeah, kilometers is
Smaller.
less.
Yeah. About
So there's all the satellites. It'll probably be a while before they deploy
they start
them.
shooting them out.
Yeah. But you're right. The now we're back.
We're back.
The Apollo missions didn't have the same payload capacity as the Starship rockets, which are all reusable, second and first stage, and it's taller. So that's going to be quite a sight to see launch when it and they come back and catch them.
How soon will they be putting crews in starships?
Elon will tell you next week, but SpaceX is probably they likely want to do a bunch of unmanned launches before.
Have they orbited one yet?
No, that's what they're trying to
That's
do
what
right
I thought.
now. They're in the process of getting approval for orbit, but they have orbit ready rockets that
Okay.
they've
So
stacked,
they're-
and they just did a static fire with 6 engines and all that, but still.
So just the Starship, it by itself can take off and do an orbit.
It can't deliver much by itself. So that's why they're developing that booster.
Right. It'll be on a booster.
If you want to bring much cargo with you, it helps to have that boost. But the second stage piece could take. The idea is that's got to take off from Mars by itself or the Moon.
Yeah,
'Cause
well,
you
you
won't-
don't
have
have much
booster.
gravity to fight with there.
Uh-huh.
That's so cool.
They're saying I look like you.
Poor kid.
Ben Sebastian says, "Can't wait to see 4K video of humans walking on the moon." That
Now
will be interesting.
Yeah, what they can do now.
With higher grade cameras and improved live streaming technology.
Video was such a new thing.
Oh yeah, I've
So,
heard the
I mean-
process of getting film back from the moon was this huge ordeal.
I could imagine with the radiation and stuff.
Yeah.
It could expose.
Kind
film.
of interferes with film.
Yeah. No, some of the pictures they took were amazing, but still the kind of stuff they can do now with that be
Yeah, get some
fascinating.
red cameras up there with this super high res, super high frame rate. Just film everything as detailed as you can and send
It'd be
it back.
interesting what the sky looks like if they could capture that, because it's such a
Yeah.
contrast. Video has a hard time with that. If the moon's surface and the space, which is so dark, that contrast. But the astronauts talk about looking up and just seeing these star fields forever from there. So,
now we've got the HDR tech and more long exposures.
Interesting. The old movies.
Time lapses.
When people imagined being on the moon and made movies like that, they always really did some amazing stuff. If you want to blow your mind, is watch 2001: Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
That's an old film now, and the special effects really hold up. And there's a whole moon sequence at the beginning of that.
Yeah.
And to think that was made before. That film was made before we'd actually been to the moon.
Oh, right.
And you watch that and think, man, they got some things really cool.
Right.
Really right.
Right.
It was almost to the point
like,
where when they actually walked on the when they walked on the moon,
Kubrick did it.
That's not as good as Kubrick, but that's pretty cool. I don't know who this Armstrong fella is, but
Neil backwards is alien. We've already answered that one. Ben says he recommends the film Apollo 11, a documentary comprised of restored film footage. I think I've seen that one.
I have too. Yeah, I like that a lot.
That was cool.
Now, if you want to see a really cool conspiracy film, you got to watch Capricorn 1. Didn't we watch that once?
I don't think
that was like where they fake a Mars landing.
Oh.
But then when the astronauts are returning, their heat shield separated. And they faked the death of the astronauts.
Oh, okay.
So now the government has these living astronauts who'd faked the mission at gunpoint, basically.
Yeah.
And now they've just shown them die live on screen.
So they had something coming back, but it wasn't
manned. It was a capsule returning, but it was unmanned, but it burned up on national television. So now what are they going to do with these guys?
Oh, that's an interesting dilemma.
O.J. Simpson's one of the astronauts. But that's a fun movie. It's not really a spacey movie. It's a conspiracy movie, and but that's a fun movie. I remember watching.
So O.J. found a way to get away with.
Yeah, O.J. got away. O.J. got away with faking a Mars landing. That guy gets.
We can let him go, I guess. Magato says, "Would you be interested in augmented reality glasses? What features would the first gen need to be a success?" I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
You can just have holograms on anything, really.
Yeah, if it looked like these glasses.
Yeah, it needs to be.
It didn't look goofy.
You can't have big.
No, I don't want a goggle setup. No, I think it'd be awfully cool to be able to get a text.
As you don't even have to check the watch. Yeah.
And you're just kind of, I can ignore that for now.
Someone's telling you a story, and then you go, I'm sorry, were you?
I'm sorry, I got a text.
I was reading my email just now.
Well, that and like a map program would be awfully cool when you're driving.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to see things going on.
We've talked about that before. I was thinking, one's going to get ahead of the other. Which tech is going to come out first? Augmented reality glasses, where it highlights the road you take, so you don't have to look away from the street to know where to turn. Or the car starts driving itself anyway, and it's kind of pointless to give directions.
Well, true.
Which will be first? I don't know.
Yeah, I like the idea of you've said too, like being able to extend the functions of your watch to where you could have, I'd have my watch display, but then I could have augmented multiple displays that I could scroll through and look at. Or have going, so I could have a fairly large display that would just fit on a smaller device.
Right. Or notifications. Now they cut in on your content on your phone. Whereas if they came out from behind the phone, or I have my MacBook here, but now I want a bigger screen, I can just throw one up real quick. So I've always looked at it as like bridging the ecosystem together. I don't really see it as a phone replacement, which is what a lot of people are envisioning. Is like you won't need a phone anymore. You'll just have glasses. I think
even just people with their Bluetooth connections. Yeah, we've talked about that. I think that's just bizarre.
There's a social aspect.
Somebody in a I was at a Subway, the restaurant.
Yeah.
And this guy while he's eating a sandwich, had the most animated conversation, out loud, full voice,
just to himself,
all by himself. And I just think, my goodness, that is just it's rude to the people around you. It's weird. It's socially awkward, and you're hearing half a conversation. And
it was a Hollywood thing for a while in lots of movies. If they needed a character to quickly be looked at as a jerk and kind of annoying, they would have him on a Bluetooth. I saw it in TV shows and movies. It was like, you don't want to be one of those people. So that's just one example of like the social factor matters. Even if something's convenient and intuitive, the way you look as you're doing it, or how others interpret it. Because I'm sure with AR you could make a virtual keyboard that you type, but imagine what that guy's going to look like. or even on a Surface, he's just typing on nothing.
What's that movie, Tom Cruise, Minority Report?
Yeah,
he does a whole sequence. Yeah, where he's.
It just doesn't look right.
Did you see the clip I sent you about some people with those AR goggles?
Yeah, you did.
That was hilarious. I mean, people are just totally into this AR experience, but I'd get bigger kick watching them wear those things and all the stuff they're doing. And when they freak out and they fall or they're getting shot at and they're screaming and running, and I would rather not.
Yeah.
I'll watch and laugh at other people, but I don't want to be the brunt of wearing that.
Yeah. Well, Ben brings up a point of why do we think it's rude if they had their phone up to their face, would it be different? And my answer has always been, if you're talking to something, it comes across as more understandable, whereas the Bluetooth headset thing, everyone kind of has to make sure they know who he's talking to. Now I have to check, are you talking to me?
Yeah,
because you're looking at me or you're looking in my direction.
It is more awkward.
Whereas
I don't like voice conversations, hearing half of them. I don't like getting phone calls really anymore.
Yeah, I don't really care
anybody that I really want to talk to knows to text me.
Sure.
Once in a while I take a phone call from like my grandma or something.
Someone who's not going to text.
Someone who's wouldn't know how.
But I do think there's something about this that is socially more acceptable and approachable than like you don't know where to put your eyes, I think is the thing. Like where you set your eyes impacts how people view you. So if your eyes are just off into space and someone happens to be sitting there or near there, that's going to be...
And you're speaking in a full voice.
Yeah.
You look like you're crazy. You look like you're schizophrenic.
So what turns me away from it is FaceTime calls. I see a hard time doing that with glasses. Whereas if someone calls you on your phone, you can hold it out and look at them and talk to them. Or taking pictures. You could try to do it with the glasses, but now you got to move your head where the camera is. Versus I can set this up on a tripod, or I can hold it out and take a selfie with everyone.
Yeah.
With glasses, you'd have to hold the weird headset out, and you can't really see the visuals. That thing?
They had some kind of sensors that you would wear on your hands.
Yeah.
And then if you wanted to take a picture, you did this.
Right.
And just
wasn't that a necklace?
Click. It was some kind of thing that read the sensors. Yeah, I think it was something you wore around here. I think that looked kind of cool to me.
Yeah, I think now with vision based, artificial intelligence learning, it wouldn't even need... There's software now that motion tracks hands so well.
So it would just be...
You don't even need to wear anything.
So you could take a picture, you could text in the air. You could do all kinds of stuff.
It's not that I'm not excited for it, because I would be super interested, but I just don't see it as a replacement to much.
Yeah.
I think it would, especially like even when I think of, okay, you can put a TV on the wall. Do we not need TVs anymore? And then I think, well, that's assuming everyone in the room has them.
Right.
A TV is probably going to be cheaper to buy, and then everyone can look at it versus...
Let's all get these
Everyone
glasses.
buy these $1,000 glasses, and then we got to connect them so that we see the same things.
Well, and the number of screens in the house has been a weird dynamic for families.
That is.
They can all go in their own room and watch, where, we used to have a TV in one place.
Right.
And everybody had to agree on what we watched. Now, and I been guilty of, we got one thing on TV and I've got something here going on, and my wife's watching TV and she's
now that's kind of the default. Everyone's got the phone ready for when the ads start on the TV.
Right.
And the commercials start.
Yep. Let's go look at something.
Is it done? Okay. And then I watch and well, Bart's been a member for 4 months, I guess. He just hit his 4-month mark. Wow. So thank you, Bart Jansen. Do you think that the Apple Glass can replace the Apple Watch, or will the Apple Watch stick around because it's fit health sensors inside some shape? I still have a hard time visualizing the glasses being very cheap is my thing. The tech of pixels that are transparent and also thin and lightweight and fashionable. I've seen some people make some bold claims, but I'm still convinced the AR glasses are going to be like in the thousands. They're not going to be cheap. Whereas the watch, you could buy the watch you have now for $200, and I do think the watch is going to be better at health stuff. Like, it's pretty easy to pack a heart rate sensor, an ECG, or blood oxygen in a little capsule that sits on your wrist. Something thin and light that rests on your ears and nose. I don't know how easy it would be to embed the health tech in there. It's going to be a big like battery question. Like how big are the batteries and how heavy are they to the point can they be comfortable?
So and a watch was such a already socially acceptable device.
Yeah.
If they come up with some kind of goggle thing that you got to wear.
Have you seen the HoloLens? Have I ever showed you that?
Oh, is that the...
It's a Microsoft one.
Oh, I think so. They're big goggles, though, right? It's a big old headset.
Yeah, they're intentionally not trying to be fashionable, but it gives you an idea of like if we wanted the tech to come out now.
Yeah,
there was a federal mandate that said you got to release AR glasses today. That's what.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of cool. I mean,
the big old headset.
But I mean, if I don't see that being the phenomenon that the iPhone or the Apple Watch was, because we were already sporting phones. So now we just had... I could not imagine, when I saw the first iPhones, I couldn't imagine people holding a screen up to their face. I did not get that.
The glass.
But what I could not foresee was how important texting was going to be, that we were going to interface with the device with our hands more than we would our face.
Right.
But that it works just fine with your face. I kept picturing, my face is going to
touch the
buttons and it's going to mess it up. I couldn't figure that.
Yeah. They're saying TVs are so cheap. I got a TV for my room on Amazon for $125. Yeah, ours in the living room was like $400 or something. So
they're nice.
As soon as glasses start getting cheaper, TVs will be even more cheap. You'll be able to buy a flat screen for $20 or something.
Yeah. The vending machines out in front of the drugstore. You buy your flat screens.
The Happy Meal TVs. So I think the watch, the glasses could replace a lot of what the watch does, but I still don't think it would completely kill it off. Kind of like people were saying, will iPads kill off laptops? It's like, kind of, but not really. It's kind of an expense.
They kind of got absorbed with one another, didn't they?
Right. I keep wanting Apple, like I did a video a couple days ago. I want Apple to combine the two, because I'm sick of having to keep this around for all my Apple Pencil video thumbnail making, and then having to go to this every time I want to do.
Do you like the kind that flap over? So that
I've tried those. I haven't seen it implemented in a way I like, because you always have the keys on the back.
Yeah.
So you're kind of pressing all these buttons as you're touching it, and it's very thick. They always have to be pretty chunky, whereas I don't have it anymore, but I used to have a keyboard case for my iPad that, magnetically, I just docked it.
Snapped on. And then you were set.
And if you wanted to use it just as an iPad, you could just pull it. There wasn't a mechanism.
So they've done it.
Yeah, but iPad OS can't do anything still.
Oh, I see. It's the OS
the operating system here.
Well, that's what is just make a operating system that... I see what you're saying.
But they won't do it. There's not even a calculator app on the iPad, or a weather app. They don't even do that. The iPhone does it, but not the iPad.
Oh.
Which I scratch my head over Do you need to get going? We've been going.
No, I'm all right.
Oh, okay.
I got all day. Well, I'm tired.
As I always say, this job's a joke.
Do you say that on here?
Yeah. Well, people describe what is retirement. Do you consider yourself retired? I mean, you're not teaching anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's an old TV show your mom and I have revived. It's called Newhart.
Oh, yeah.
Newhart.
Yeah. I watched it.
And I've decided I'm that guy. I'm Dick Loudon. Dick Loudon on Newhart. That's me. I get up in the morning, I work out, I have some coffee, then I go into my office and I work on things.
You come up with projects.
When I taught and I was flying out of the house and working all day and working at night and had evening things and I would watch something like Dick Loudon and go, oh, I want that. I want to be that guy so bad. That just goes into his separate space in his house and that's where his job is. Yeah. And he works there. And you do that.
That's what I was going to say. If that's the definition of retirement, I think I've retired.
I don't think it's retired. But yeah, you're
I'm doing
if you're
what I
not
want,
driving off to inviting the commute to some 9 to 5 and I mean, you get to innovate, you get to be creative, you get to decide how much you're going to produce, you get to decide the content. I'm only
gig.
Now in my almost 60. I'm just getting to where that's my life, and more and more. I mean, with the technology of today, people can make a living this way now.
Right, and I highly encourage it. I don't think enough people ask about it.
It's hard to get traction though.
Yeah,
I mean, I see my son with almost 300,000 subscribers or something. It's like, man, I want that. How do you get that? I mean, because if I had that many followers. I make a cool little lesson plan and I put it on Teachers Pay Teachers and I make what I made as a teacher in one.
I'll just do that.
One afternoon. I'll just do that.
Set your schedule.
But it doesn't happen that way. And I think probably a lot of people that follow you and that especially the younger people are thinking, I want to do what Drew does. And, I'm sure there's luck, but there's also just diligence. You make your own luck. You make your own luck.
Luck favors the prepared.
Because you worked a lot of hours. I mean, when
it helps to enjoy it.
When we had a 16-year-old, 17-year-old up in his room just cranking out stuff
every night
on the computer, we're like, what's he doing up there? And is this a bad idea? And when it started turning a profit, we were like, well, okay, he's found something, but it took diligence, and you had plenty of zero.
I remember you laughing.
0 views or 20 views. Or...
I had been making all these skits and short films for years, and I said, and they're monetized, so if enough people watch it, I'll get paid. And you were like, so if you combine all the watch time and all the views together, how much have you made? And I plugged it in. It was like $50. And that was after like 6 years of doing YouTube stuff. So you were like, yeah, it's great.
Keep your day job.
You better finish school.
I've done Teachers Pay Teachers for 1 month. And as of today, I've made $7.20.
Well, you're ahead of where I was after 7 years of YouTube. So that's why I say it helps to be interested in it, because I was doing it hoping to turn it into a job, but I also just enjoyed it in general.
And there were people you would see on there and go, hey, that guy made it, and that guy made it.
Right.
And that's I know ticks you off when people say it, but they go, I could do that.
Yeah.
I could go on the screen and just start talking, and people give me money. I could do that.
It's funny when people say that, but to me it's like they pass it off as in it's easy.
Right.
But I don't necessarily see it as easy, but just as it's worth pursuing. Mm-hmm. Whenever people say that, I'm like, do it. Yeah. Like, if it's so easy, I mean, it's not. But getting to the point where you have traction and people interested to the point where I can go live with my dad and people are like, I want to watch this.
Yeah.
I want to see what they have to say.
It's insanity.
That's a tricky part to get to. Yeah. But you just have to acknowledge that lots of people want that.
Yeah.
So the market's very saturated.
Right.
How you separate yourself is tricky.
Well, and there's something with all the algorithm stuff that you probably understand. I don't, but like they say with selling stuff online, if you have a channel or like I have a store on this Teachers Pay Teachers, it's a store.
Yeah.
if I go on as a consumer and I look up me, I'm way down the list. I mean,
Right.
nobody just, it doesn't just pop up
Yeah.
unless I am real specific in the search.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you looked up Thanksgiving activities,
Sure.
you wouldn't find me for several pages of scrolling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but other people, boom, they're right there, and they've
Mm-hmm.
positioned themselves, or the algorithm's playing in their favor.
Yeah.
May the algorithm be forever in your favor. But that's part of it,
Right.
is that, people see you and you come up
Mm-hmm.
a lot more quickly.
That was the reason for choosing Tailosive as the name, was because we had other channels before that were kind of generic, me and my friends. But if you looked it up, we weren't there. You got mixed in with
Yeah.
all these other channels.
Right, right.
So I said, I need a name that no one else is looking for. So
Why not use a word that you made up yourself as a small child?
I know that one's free. I know nobody's using that.
No trademarks.
I actually still kind of do that backwards search where if I have a video planned that I'm gonna drop, I'll search what I'm gonna call it and see what comes up, because I
Okay,
know
yeah.
that video is gonna go up alongside these. So sometimes a particular subject will have the same thumbnail over and over and over again. So I go, okay, don't use that thumbnail.
There you
Try
go.
something different,
Yeah.
so that it doesn't blend in with the crowd.
Raise your own dang kids
Mm-hmm.
is mine.
Uh-huh.
Somebody's used the other D word and made their book.
Darn.
Not
Yeah.
darn. And it's not darn.
Yeah. It's
So then you're
a
like,
parenting
come
book with
on.
an expletive on the front.
Yeah.
I haven't read it. It might be good, but
I'm sure it's fine. I've read it. Part of it. It's a comedian. But
no, you did a
but
good job with
mine's
this.
better. Look at mine.
There's a lot of stories of me in this, for the
There
record.
is.
If you want more Drew upbringings, some stuff I don't remember, but I'd find it ridiculous for an iPhone accessory like AR glasses to be more expensive than the iPhone itself. I would love to show people how much Apple Watches costed to the people who hadn't seen them yet, because everyone was saying, yeah, maybe $200 it could work, and now they're all like 400, 500.
Well, it's amazing
Whoa.
what people pay for a watch.
Snazzy Labs joined. He said, "Drat. What, did you join the wrong live stream on accident, Quinn?" He's another tech channel.
Oh,
That's why he's got the
snazzy.
check mark.
Nice.
Snazzy should ask my dad questions.
Yes. Let's hear it, Snazzy. What do you got?
Michael says, I always assumed retirement is something that sort of happens to you grudgingly, at least in the United States. I don't think it happens to you
Well,
grudgingly.
it depends on what you've been doing. If
Uh-huh.
you've been, the title of my book, "Raise Your Own Dang Kids," is part of that snarky attitude. Is that okay? I did this for 30-something years. I'm out. Raise your own dang kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
This comes from, I keep forgetting the number. How many years were you a teacher?
well, it was 27
I keep
as
saying
a classroom
30.
teacher, and then I was 5 as a youth pastor. So I was working.
So it was
in-
over 5. Over 30.
Yeah.
Okay. I keep saying 30.
Working with other people's kids for probably about 35 years.
Yes.
Employed as doing such for probably about 33.
Right. No, you've got a lot of balance between the parenting and the teaching mix, and how when you started you were just kind of talking hypothetically because you didn't have kids of
I
your
didn't
own.
have my own kids. Yeah.
Now you do, and so you had more experience.
Yeah,
by the
at
time
some
you-
point you outrank the parents that you're serving as a teacher. You're their
Uh-huh.
kid's teacher, but they kind of look at you like, well, you're just a kid. You don't know anything about raising kids. And I had some ideas, and I saw what was going poorly with some of
Yeah.
the kids I had, but no, I definitely got to a point where it was like, no, I've got kids, and they don't act like this, and this
Right.
is why. And
And I think
could-
you
could do
described it
better.
in the book as kind of like you describe yourself as sort of grouchy, like an old man coming back from a trail saying, that hike is really bad. You better have lots of water for
You
that.
can't go in flip flops,
Right.
And you're gonna need.
And it comes
Just
across
step up.
kind of prideful or you
Yeah.
know, a little overconfident.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's
everybody's
true.
an expert on their own kid.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I know somebody who's got an 8-month-old kid, and they're saying she's such a nice, inquisitive young child, and there's like, at 8 months, that's the jury's still out on this kid.
Yeah, there's a lot to be decided.
But
Sure.
still, at the same time, because everyone's an expert, but they do know what's going on with their kid, and they should learn and decide what's best for their kid. Absolutely. Sure. But it's okay to look to somebody who's done this and say, okay, how did you handle this, or how did you handle that? People who have that kind of a posture towards parenting are going to do better. Are going to do better.
That's true.
They just can't assume you know everything.
Yeah, that's fair. Now we got a lot less wannabe astronauts and a lot more wannabe YouTubers. Which I ponder if that's a good or bad thing. I definitely looked at Drew and been like, I want to do that, and I'm 16. I have a channel, but I don't have time to make videos too often.
Yeah, you gotta make time.
You gotta make time, I guess. I find myself in that same position these days, and it's my full-time job. And I keep running out of time.
Who has time?
I don't understand it sometimes. You know, when I was younger, I was doing occasional tech videos, but I was also doing the Saturday shorts on Tailosive TV.
Right.
And I was vlogging and occasionally doing gaming live streams.
Were you ever sleeping?
I must have at some point. I've never been the one to avoid too much sleep. I'd stay up late and miss class, but I was still doing school, and now I'm trying to do all that same stuff, and I feel like I don't have as much time, but I don't even have school anymore.
Well, it's like anything. You're going to need 10,000 hours of mastery.
Yes.
So if you're whatever you pursue in life, and that's roughly with.
Is that from Outliers? Which book was the 10,000?
It's Malcolm Gladwell's.
Yeah.
It could be Outliers. Yeah.
It might have been.
That idea of if you don't put in the time, and studies have shown this 10,000 hours, which basically with the rest of your life, like eating and sleeping and the basics, it comes to something like 5 years of solid work.
Yeah.
Removing out all the rest of it. So something like 5 years of grind on a whatever skill or whatever project, business, or anything else. You just can't expect that. And I've heard people say you can always do a lot less than you expect in 1 year, but with a grind like that, you can really surprise yourself of how much you can do in 5.
Yeah, yeah.
So that 1 year you grind it out and it's miserable and you're not making any money, you're not getting any popular, and you're not finishing. You can't stop there because you really got to be on at least a 5-year plan to start seeing. And at least by 5 years, you're going to know, okay, this isn't working out. But to quit after that first hard year,
sure,
you didn't really give it a try.
It's probably a lot of restaurant stories. That's a really tough business. Is like you're just going to run at a loss for probably years.
I don't know how people push through that kind of a thing.
It's admirable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think trial and error is a pretty important factor of it too, because it implies that if you're going into the YouTube space or any career, really, YouTube's just one example, but you will be bad at it. You're not going to be...
Not going to hit the ground with...
You're not going to hit a home run on your first swing.
Right.
I'm trying to think of more botched sport metaphors I can make. You're not going to make a touchdown on your first swing, You're not going to score a goal on your first throw, But just understanding that there will be failure and to expect it, but the optimistic viewpoint towards everything of I'm not good now, but I can get better.
Yes.
And I will keep trying to improve rather than this is what I am.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't get clicks or I didn't succeed, therefore I'm a failure.
You see those kids I've seen them on YouTube and TikTok and different things. I just am not getting enough likes, and so I'm going to leave. And they walk out of the room and shut the door, and they're like, maybe that'll do it. Maybe that'll get me the likes I'm looking for. So it's not. It is, and you're right. It's with everything. It's not just with a YouTube. That's not the YouTube formula. That's the success formula.
Yeah.
I'm not going to quit, and this is what I'm going to do.
It's like a new job, but there's a lot of carryover, I think, with traditional career and success stories and defining success. Because we talked about it a few streams ago. I was mentioning people are like, how do you deal with YouTuber burnout? You know, that's a common expression. You just get so tired and exhausted from the work and the drive and trying to. I'm like, that's not a YouTuber thing. That's just a life thing.
That's a life thing.
Every job can get burnout, even if it's something you enjoy. And my answer was just an obvious one, which is it's all about balance. Just making time for yourself, for your mental health and physical health, and just taking breaks. It's not a mystery. I don't think I'm a wise person for thinking of this. It's like, what should you do when something gets really tiring? And we'll stop doing that. Maybe take a break. But I compared it to what I started with earlier this year with one of my New Year's resolutions, starting January 1st, was I was going to try to do 4 pieces of content per day. 3 edited videos and a live stream, and I could do it. I had to start right when I woke up, and I was fighting to be wrapped up right at the end of Louise's work schedule, so we could be done and
life.
Not compromise on my marriage. You know, honey, those vlogs need to happen. I gotta play more Minecraft. You know, I can't see each other anymore. You know, I didn't want to compromise on that, but I was just trying to see how efficient and how packed can I get in a day, and I was doing it, but man, I was dead by the end of every day, and I was like starting to dread the mornings of like, oh, I got to start right now. I don't have any time. I can't budge on this schedule, because if I don't have that 10 minutes of extra wiggle room in the schedule, then it just all falls apart. So after a few months, I was like, yeah, this isn't good for my mental health, and that's just kind of spreading myself too thin.
Maybe you set the goal a little higher than you needed.
Yeah. So I know it's possible, but it wasn't good for me.
Yeah.
So now I scaled it back to 3.
There's a humility in just saying, okay, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna see how it goes.
Yeah.
And if it's damaging, I'm not gonna just grind it out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be smart and do what I have. I'm moving into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was a wrestler for years.
Wow.
And I'm going into it. And everybody says when you walk into a room where you're going to do some jiu-jitsu, you want to walk out. You want to walk in like a kitten, and you want to walk out like a lion.
Wow.
Which means you go in humble.
Yeah.
You go in and say, I don't know this stuff. I don't know how my body's going to take to it. I've got some arthritis. I'm old. But there's a lot of old guys that do this.
Sure.
Especially old wrestlers.
Yeah.
So I'm moving towards it and trying it. And if it hurts, you tap out a little early. And I live to fight another day, and then just keep going until it, and I'll get good at it, or I'll say, you know what, this is causing more injuries, more downtime.
Yeah,
Switch it humbly and say, okay, I'm going to do the work. I'm going to do the work, and I'm not going to give up because it's hard.
Yeah.
But I'm going to evaluate, is this getting me where I want to be, and make a move if I have to.
Measuring success, that's a tricky subject, because YouTube, at least, maybe more so than other jobs, makes it very easy to compare with others.
Yes.
Which is also something I think humans tend to do, and we're pretty bad at it, is someone else has more than me, someone else grew faster, someone else did this better with less resources or less time. So YouTube makes that comparison really easy, because we all got this big number right next to every channel name, or every video has all its views. Although YouTube got rid of dislikes, maybe they'll get rid of everything else. We've decided this is too stressful, so
it's hurting people's feelings. So we've got to stop this.
Timmy's sad that he has 0 subscribers, so we're gonna get rid of all subscriber
no subscribers anymore.
But like understanding how you can make a living at something and be happy about it.
Right.
That's a difficult balance I've discovered, because, my channel specifically, has grown much faster in previous years than it has now. And does that mean I'm failing? That question of like, well, if so-and-so is growing, well, how are they growing? What tactics are they using to grow their channel? Are you willing to do those tactics? Because it doesn't, you need an expert to look at, okay, what does one do to get that organic growth, or to get that artificial growth? Are you willing to do those things? Could you be happy with yourself at the end of the day if you did? And
if that's what you spent your time on.
It's kind of like, no, I don't think I'm willing to do that. So
there's that that aspect of kind of a cost benefit analysis.
Yeah.
It's like, what would you be doing if YouTube crashed and
yeah, that's a question
no longer,
I get a lot.
yeah,
Lineman's
well,
college.
you know, maybe you'd go to, well,
that was our
I mean,
plan
you
B.
have options
Yeah.
like that, but I mean, is there something in your gift set that, you know, most people would be doing, because most people don't have a successful YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But people with your gift set, what would they be doing? You know?
Right.
If you're someone who enjoys communicating and that kind of thing, you could, you know, pursue broadcasting career. You could,
Yep.
Teaching was something
Yep.
that I went into because I like communicating. I like understanding ideas and communicating ideas and seeing people get a hold of something, grasping it.
Right.
So teaching was a good option for me. But if you can do what you're doing and make the same or more money than you would doing one of those other things,
Yeah.
that's a benefit analysis.
Right. Or how the lower or more volatile income impacts your livelihood.
Yes.
That's a subject you touched on in here about people feeling like they need to work a certain job or they need to make a certain amount because they have a certain lifestyle that has to be met.
Right.
And if I don't have that lifestyle, I can't be happy.
And that's dictated by looking at the guy next door.
Well, he has that. Why can he have it and I can't? You know?
Yeah.
That's a tricky one too.
We got to have a boat, or we're not a happy family, or we got to have a cabin, or we're not a happy family. You know, and yeah, then you'll do anything to get that, including sub your kids out to someone else to raise while you work 3 jobs and your wife works 2 jobs or something. Yeah, that can be a real problem.
It is. How long should I make each of my videos? Oh, the answer, the creative, witty answer I've always had for that is the length of a video has little to do with the duration. I think it has more to do with the way it's paced. Because I'll go back on my old tech videos when I first started making them, and they'll be like 4 minutes, 3 minutes, and they go on forever. They just feel like
droning on.
Yeah, just they were slow and monotone, and I was like, it has everything to do with pacing. I've had videos that I felt just quickly breezed by, and they're like 20 minutes.
Well, there's another cost benefit analysis too.
Yeah.
I mean, how long does it have to be for you to get any monetization out of it?
I think over 60 seconds is all it takes. But the amount of money you can make per video is going to be much less on a 3-minute video than it is a 10-minute video. But I don't think that means you should just stretch everything to 10 minutes just for the sake of watching that. Is there enough to be said on the subject that's interesting and captivating? And that's extremely subjective. That's not a one-size-fits-all. No. To me, most people would, I've often gotten the comment either, what's funny is the different cultures, like the EV channel, people all say, you talk too fast or you're cutting too much, or I can't keep up. You're talking too quickly and I can't follow you. Where the tech audience is like, you could cut all this out. This doesn't need to be this long. You keep droning on and on. Why don't you cut it shorter? So I've tried to find a middle ground there, but like the tech community's like, they don't like, I think, it to me, it's not so much I'm repeating myself. It's more that I'm diving deep into a subject and I have to expand on it, which is something I've always wanted to do as a tech creator that I didn't see happening enough outside of what I was doing, was just people getting really specific about their ideas.
Right.
A lot of the time it's very surface level in tech videos of like, well, iPads are iPads and they don't need to be MacBooks, so they don't need all that professional software. That's the end of it. Or maybe Apple doesn't do it because iPads would cannibalize the sales of Mac. So that's why they went. And then they kind of gloss over it. I'm like, no. Let's expand on that. Let's dive into Apple's okay with cannibalizing sales, just like the iPhone cannibalized the iPod.
Yeah.
And as long as you're spending more money, and I'm advocating that iPads that do Mac things can cost more than Macs do.
See, that makes it all more interesting.
That's
because
what
you're building into you're trying to find what principles are at play in all of this, the bigger picture.
What's the reason? Let's get to the bottom of this. Is it financially motivated? Is it roadmap motivated? And a lot of people just say like, oh, none of this matters. It's like, I don't think that the video could be shorter, because that's a common one, is I'll do a whole 10-minute rant or a ramble on something, which is pretty much all my videos are just rambles. And then people be like, this could have been one sentence. I could have summed that up.
Yeah, but you watched it, so I win.
But my response is always like, well, you can formulate any complex idea into a bare bones sentence. That's easy.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
say Star Wars is about a frog that convinces a kid to kill his dad. That's Yoda and Luke.
I never thought of it that way.
You could Finding Nemo is just a fish that looks for his lost son. That's it. But you take away from the gravity of it and the journey, and that's what I'd like to think my videos are for, is like getting deep into a subject, but still trying to compress it into a digestible 10-minute thing. So if that's what you're trying to go for with your content, honestly, some people have thought, oh, he said this just to get it to 10 minutes. I've literally never once said like, way. Oh, the video's not long enough, I should keep going.
Just repeat everything I just said.
I've never done that. I've always been...
Let me reiterate.
Right. I've always been, I'm going to make my piece on this subject for however long it needs to be. And if it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. If it's 30 minutes, it's 30. But usually I'm annoyed when it's 30, because that means it's going to take much longer to edit. But normally when I go into a review, I'll be like, I think it's pretty simple. Okay, I know how I feel about the camera and the battery and the display. I'll just kind of cover the basics, and it should be a nice 8-minute review. And I start recording, and I start talking, and I divulge into the little subcategories, and then I go, okay, that was pretty short, and I go to stop the camera, and it's 45 minutes. I was like, what? How long was I going for?
Well, that is. That's what happens with this kind of dialogue, is we
We're
look
doing
up
it right now.
How long have we been going?
That's why I think you said you kind of try to make the best with the gifts you have, of like what you're passionate about, what you enjoy, and how can you convert that into a profession and into a livelihood if possible.
Well, and that's hard with you, because you've got to get passionate about something every day.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of your content.
Right.
In terms of, choosing a profession.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have to pick something that you can speak about it articulately, informatively, and interesting and entertaining, and all of those things got to swirl in there to make it something people want to see and watch,
right?
And check out, and what's he saying about this? And
well, you can attest from knowing me. I think since I was born, you were there.
I was there. I cut the cord.
You cut the cord. He cut the MagSafe. It was just a braided cable. But yeah, you were aware of how, even as a kid, before YouTube, I always talked about tech, or I was interested in computers or electronics.
Yeah, you would look at it, and even as I think I have an old video that you were just fascinated with, a little animation that another student had done, and you were just very little, but you were laughing at it, and I had that recorded, and it was just interesting that you would stay with it so long. So a lot of kids are that way, but it was obviously
community of people, because you can find others that are as interested. Because I could try to talk to you about whether it be Tesla or Apple or this new chip or this new phone for so long, but or like you said in the book, anyway, jets. That's what it would be at the dinner
jets.
table. At a certain point, you were just like, okay, any other subjects we can talk about?
Topics we can get in?
But no, I always kind of threw myself at fields and got really into them, and
it was trains, and jets, and then
cars for a little while.
Cars for a while, but then it started to move towards animation, and then it started to move towards more and more technology.
Yeah. So you have a community of people that are also interested in that are interested in your ramblings, as you guys are still here for some reason. The big, they still have a question. This vid could have been one sentence. Here's my dad.
Buy my book.
That's how we summarize the whole thing.
Go on Teachers Pay Teachers. And
Links in the description. It could summarize the whole thing, but you lose everything. You lose most of it.
Well, and I think a successful podcast, successful live stream, you just kind of talking head format are the ones where people feel like they know you and they feel like you're a friend.
They've got a friend going,
and it is interactive with this chat feature.
Yeah,
way more so than what we got from Walter Cronkite growing up. Where you just had a guy talking and he was sort of fatherly and grandfatherly, and that worked.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't. I mean, now you need the added accessibility. I need to be able to interact and talk, and it's a long format where you're talking about subjects, and the conversation just sort of goes where it goes. It's very fluid, very organic, and that's what I think is making this such a popular medium in general.
Yeah.
To enter into that and make a living at it, you're going to have to find some of that secret sauce. How can you know, build a community of people, or draw a community of people to yourself that want to have that conversation, or the kinds of conversations that you can engage.
Yeah,
and
convincing
that's
people
tricky.
the time is worth it.
Yeah,
is tricky.
Yeah.
I get when you get in-depth review, because not everyone thinks that deeply about tech. Oh yeah, that's true. You need 1,000 subscribers to make money off of videos. I forgot about that, and 4,000 hours of watch time. So it's a little bit of a build-up.
You need 1,000 people to all watch
1 hour. 4 times.
4 times. 4 hours.
And hit the subscribe button. But if you were making 3,000 hours a year, that would equate to probably like $50 a month. It's not like you're missing out on a ton by not having that.
Wow.
Let's see. Drew like trains. I love them, specifically Steam. Not as into them now, although we watched Unstoppable the other night. Do you remember that movie?
Drew's train likings was back when it was Thomas the Train.
Yeah,
was
Thomas was everything.
So I don't think you were.
That's
you
true.
identify trains on the tracks as they went by? I mean, you noticed them, but did you know that was a diesel electric 7,000?
No, I knew Thomas from
Thomas.
James and Percy.
Yeah. We have those out for my grandkids now. They play with Uncle Drew's trains all the time.
They were fun. This might be an interesting question. How do you choose what kind of career you want that balances your passion in making good income? I want to teach history, but the area I live is too expensive to live off of a teacher's salary. Well, who's teaching there if no one can live?
That is,
I don't know.
That is in certain areas, and the radical answer is, well, I can think of 2 ideas for teachers. One is you need to live in an area, like a rural area, or move to a rural area, where teachers are some of the highest paid people.
Because that's a thing. There's places where they make quite a bit.
Yeah, they it's not that they make more on paper, in terms of if you're going to make $70,000 a year as a teacher, which is not unheard of. But if you live in the San Francisco Bay Area, you can't afford rent.
That's chump change. Yeah.
But if you live in northern regions of California, you could live very well and buy a house and do just fine. So there's that. If your passion is teaching. The other thing is teachers have all kinds of opportunities nowadays. Like we started a charter school, and that was not necessarily a money-making proposition. We ended up making the same money pretty much.
But you risked a lot.
We risked a lot to do it.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is we had more control over what we did as teachers.
Right.
That way our passion was engaged. So if I could make the same money but do it my way, I'd rather do it. The other thing is there's a whole new movement called micro schools, which would have been great, I think, for you and your sisters. The idea that you can start your own school, like in a space of some kind. It could be, you find a family that has a large house. Maybe they're, find a dentist family or something. And they have this big house and they got a big basement space or something like that. And you bring in 7, 8, 10, 12 kids, maybe 2 from that very house, and you start a little school just for them. And
it's more personal.
You have a history component if you're a history teacher, this person, but there's also, all the other solids and things. And some of those can be covered with various types of software programs, some of which are free. And you're teaching language arts and math and all the rest of the subjects, the solids, and you can engage in history. And I would say I was a social studies major, so that idea of having a history emphasis to your school or your micro school for those 10 kids, where they're writing and doing math, but it all centers on social studies, like maybe you're going to talk about how to save the rainforest, you know, so what kinds of reading, what kind of research, what kinds of science, what kinds of writing is going to go into that, what kind of math with deforestation rates and all that stuff. So you're covering all the subjects, but you have a special emphasis in what you're good at. And you only got 10 kids to manage, and they're all going to pay you, you know, not quite what they would pay private school tuition, but if you had 10 kids all paying you, what, $100 a month, you're
probably less than daycare.
They'll probably pay more than $100 a month. I'll work on the math, but you see what I look up micro schools and you'll see.
You'd be at $1,000
So
a month.
I'm just saying, with education in general, there's choices that are emerging, especially with all of the COVID and what it did with distance learning and all of that. There's some choices people can pursue that are different than just going to the local school in their community and trying to get a job there. And it's just more. You just, if you're willing to go after it, it's
a lot of jobs people are working. Like my job didn't exist, 15 years ago. So there's all kinds of new approaches.
And I'm sure that'll continue. And that's kind of what education is experiencing, is that we have to train kids to be adults in a world that we can't predict, what the needs, what the skills required. We can't predict that. So it changes what education is about. Education needs to be about preparing people to be prepared to learn, be prepared to engage, be prepared to be an amateur at something and grow into it. And there, like you said, there's jobs that you're preparing for now. If you're still school age, you're preparing for jobs that don't exist. So you better be flexible. You better be a learner.
Universal skills.
Who wants to,
Tradable.
Find a trade or find a
So that was a good question. It was a deep one. People liked the Series 7 review. Thank you. I'm glad that turned out okay. Ross put a lot of his back literally into that.
Was that out on the bridge? I saw the raw footage
when I was showing you.
That was beautiful.
The audio didn't quite come out the way I wanted, but it's my fast food approach of like people were saying, well, what you want to do is get a lav bike and go out here and try tinker. It's done. It's already been done.
We're not doing it again.
I could throw it in the garbage or I could post it. Most people were positive about it.
I think it's a cool area to go film around too.
People were like, it's just so refreshing to see you out somewhere else.
Nice to see you go outside. That's what I said.
Spend all this money on this house and then we can all get out of it and try to ignore it. Marngel says, thanks for answering the question. If Toby had an unlimited budget for an EV, which one would he buy? I'd probably have to help you.
No, I'm definitely a Tesla fan. I have been since
what about
the
first
Rivian?
ones? Did you
with the little camping gear on it?
It's a truck, pretty
pancake
close to
maker in the back bed and all that.
It's a truck about the size of your Tacoma. Could you see yourself doing that?
No, I could see myself doing that. Sure, I like that. I like that look too. I was a big fan of the Long Way Up. I like motorcycle stuff. So the Long Way Up, and
you rode the Livewire yourself.
I rode a Livewire. I don't know if I'd want an electric motorcycle. It's like everything, It's like, am I the kind of guy that's going to go on 500-mile, 5,000-mile trips regularly enough? Probably not right now. That's not my thing or my lifestyle. When I get on a motorcycle, though, I like to go like 1,000 miles, and that Livewire would not do that.
No, not very well.
It'd be challenging to get it to where I want it to go. So I'm not one that would just buy it on some principle or buy it because it's cool. It would really have to function for me better than a gasoline vehicle.
You'd have to beat it.
If it beats a gasoline vehicle and it's got all these cool things.
Sure.
And, yeah, I'd be all for that.
I think have you only been in that one Tesla we brought by the house a few years ago?
I think so.
That was the only one. So
Yeah.
you've been in a Model 3, but never anything
No.
much faster.
No. But I was impressed with that. I mean, that was the kind of car I would like to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah,
I
me
like the
too.
idea of charging it in my house.
Yes.
Having a full tank every morning if I'm going
Right.
somewhere.
I often
But I'm kind of
bring
like you.
that
I'm driving less and less and less because I'm working out of my home.
That's true,
It's
too.
like my daughter, her car broke down. I was like, "Oh, just take my truck."
Uh-huh.
And I kind of forgot it was. I walked out in the garage. Where's my truck? Oh, Abby has the truck.
Yeah.
It's like I haven't driven in
Haven't gone
4
anywhere.
days, so she
Yeah.
might as well have it.
That's why range has mattered less and less to me as time has gone by. Especially seeing people still doing cross-country trips with the short-range vehicles. Just means you got to stop a little more often. But
Yeah. But if you got all that, like that Rivian truck with all
Yeah.
that gear in it, and if that's not something you do a lot,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to either change your lifestyle to fit the truck or
Right.
have that lifestyle, in which case
Yeah.
there's no question.
yeah, exactly.
He said, or any car in general. Is there anything else you would buy? Or
I'm just not a car guy.
Yeah.
I really liked my Toyota Tacoma. It's an 11.
It's a decent truck. I drove it all the way to your new place.
Yeah, in Spokane. So it goes and it's tough and it'll do the snow. I had it in the snow recently.
That's
and
right.
It's that's a
I
great.
prefer that
vehicle.
size, having driven the bigger F-150s and F-350s.
I don't know how people get along without a pickup truck. We've had pickup trucks
Somehow I manage.
somehow, but then you're borrowing a truck whenever you get a mattress or you got to move something or you got to get a
I
load
can
of
count
dirt.
on one hand how many times.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Rivian with camping. It's like, I've gone camping, so I could use this. It's like, how many times have you gone
Yeah,
camping?
you go camping.
That's us with the truck. Is like, how many times have we needed a truck in the past 2 years? And I can think of maybe 2 or 3 times.
It's just awfully nice when you have it, and it works like a small
to have.
car. Otherwise,
Yeah, it can do the small car.
it's like having with a small truck. You got a small car, and then all of a sudden you need a 2x4. Oh, good! I forgot.
Yeah.
I have a truck.
That's true.
I can use that.
It's a guy
So,
thing, I think.
Maybe, but it
'Cause
is awfully nice because
it's a different vibe. Trucks give.
find myself constantly either being asked if I can borrow it or
That's true.
getting a load or
That's why you don't want a truck. You're gonna get asked to.
what's that
things all
bumper
the
sticker?
time.
No, you can't borrow it, and I can't help you move this weekend.
Oh, Leo's question earlier is good. Where? Look at Leo.
Leo,
Which one? Oh, the biggest tech innovation in his life.
in my lifetime,
The biggest tech innovation. That's a tough one.
well, it just has to be microprocessors.
That's true. That kind of enabled everything we're talking
I mean,
about.
everything has one. My toaster has one.
Microchips.
Just the idea, I mean, our television when I was a little kid was this huge, heavy
Right.
box with a little 15-inch screen on it.
Uh-huh.
You know, and to now to think what I carry around.
Your
in
watch
my
has
pocket,
more
yeah,
processing power.
and just that ability to just package information in all its forms and video and picture and sound and the text and everything that it can do. I think that's been the most transformative thing in my lifetime. I mean,
Yeah, that's
before me,
Yeah.
I don't know, probably cars and
Sure.
it's weird, if I'm born in early 60s,
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, 60 years before that,
What's the most noticeable change from 60s
we
to
went
now?
from, you
Probably
don't have
microprocessors.
horse-drawn. I didn't see horse-drawn carriages
Yeah.
very often.
But maybe your
But
grandparents
60
did.
years before, my grandparents certainly did.
Yeah.
Yeah. My grandmother, who's gone now several years, but she always talked about all the changes she saw in her lifetime. We would watch Little House on the Prairie in the 70s.
Yeah.
And she said, that's my childhood.
That's what it
I
was.
mean, that's what it was.
Uh-huh.
And life didn't change very much, from 1800 to when I was a
Sure.
very young kid. But
A lot of
vehicles and
transportation.
cars and transportation
Yeah.
was the big deal.
Uh-huh.
That they can move things either by train. You know, like my grandparents were in Minnesota, both sets, Swedes in Minnesota. And for Christmas, a big deal for them was to get an orange.
Whoa.
I mean, get an orange for Christmas was a big deal. And it was because of trains and refrigerated cars that they could have oranges in Minnesota in the winter, because we harvest oranges in December, January.
There wasn't
California.
a supply chain back then
right.
to just have always. Now we can have an orange any time of the year.
You go to your stocking on Christmas morning and there's like 4 walnuts and an orange. And you're like flipping out. That's
There's
Christmas
an orange
morning.
Yeah.
So certainly microprocessing in my lifetime, but the transportation of various kinds, internal combustion, I suppose.
Yeah.
Just before me. And before that, good grief, the wheel.
The wheel.
Time is an amazing thing.
It is pretty impressive how, because you think about what has changed noticeably. If someone had 5 minutes to walk around,
if my grandmother appeared right now, I think it would be all the screens everywhere.
There's a display on everything.
Everything, and people sitting staring at those things at the bus station and at the
that just
doctor's
wasn't there.
office, and you watch old TV shows, even just we like to watch Mary Tyler Moore or Bob Newhart, all these old shows, and nobody has a phone.
No.
Whole TV story plot lines are surrounding like, we don't have a phone. Where's a phone?
Romeo and Juliet wouldn't have worked with phones.
The whole show. They're coming for us.
My mother still puts an orange in my kids' stockings, probably for the same reason. It has lost its novelty, unfortunately. Thanks, Mom.
Thanks a lot, Grandma.
Got fruit flies in here.
Throw my orange at my brother.
Everyone that wants to know about your ecosystem, I'll walk them through it. 11 Pro Max, 42 millimeter Space Gray Series 3, and you just bought a 2018 iMac that's 4K, but it's 21.5 inches. I think it's a 500 gig hard drive. And you have an iPad Air.
Yeah.
It's like
iPad Air.
The thin side bezels, but still a home button.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there you go.
That's my ecosystem.
That's his ecosystem.
Also flowers. Grass. Air.
Oxygen.
Snow.
And sorry, Stefan, I did not have that keyboard problem. He's having issues with his iPad. I have to turn back into Tailosive tech support.
Oh, please.
Oftentimes people ask me questions, and I'm like, I don't know. I would try Apple support.
I could look it up, but
so could you.
So could you.
Sorry you're having that. People saying some parts of the audio were weird, but it was worth it. I tried to actually record the audio off of my watch for a few shots. The voice memo app on here is surprisingly good.
They mean audio for the
Series 7 review. It's just not quite usable because of how I move my arms so much. If I do this, the audio doesn't sound as good. But for most of the time when I'm talking like this, and it's kind of, that's the mic, and it's pointed at me,
is it solid?
I'll play some. The actual box itself did not get the refresh I was really looking for. So
there you go. So you need one of those little clapper things at the beginning. And
I just clapped my hands.
Oh,
but
true.
For the time it's close by to my face like this.
Yeah.
It sounds really good, and I'm just trying to think of a natural way for me to keep it there.
Well, what's funny is, an old news guy in the old days would hold the mic. Sure. And that's just what you did. And everybody accepted that, it's a microphone.
Sure. Nick still does that.
Now it's supposed to be real natural. But why would this be wrong? Eventually, maybe this is what you do when you're talking.
I just think,
hi there.
If we're traveling or taking trips, it would be so much nicer to not pack around this big, awkward mic everywhere. If I could just record right off that and it was good enough, but it's still, it's noticeable. People would pick up on it right away. How's the book been going? Is you asking about your next book or this book?
Well, this book has not sold a lot. So you want to know what kind of money you make
selling
books?
That might have been a finance
That might
question.
be that one. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's kind of like a podcast. You look up and it's been 2 hours or something. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how the book went. You know, it's actually kind of thick.
Yeah.
I didn't know I could write that many.
No, it took us a few.
But
well, I knew most of the stories, but it was nice to have a running narrative with them because you had a consistent point that you were tying every story into. So a lot of it was stuff I knew, but it was interesting to have it
see it packaged,
played that way. Yeah.
Well, I self-published the book
Mm-hmm.
with the Amazon program.
Yeah.
It's called well, it's through Kindle,
Yeah.
and it's called. Now I just drew a blank. It's a.
should-
God, come on. Anyway,
I wish I
there's
knew.
a Kindle program that you can use. Somebody will pop it up here on the.
Auto publish.
Yeah, something like that. No, it's slicker than that. But you do this Kindle thing, and you can publish it both as an ebook and as a paperback, and they print to order,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty amazing. You could put any kind of tripe you want to put up and have it up there, and they give you a little spot on Amazon to sell it and everything.
Kindle
So
Direct Publishing?
yeah, it is,
That
but
might-
there's a name for it. And
they have a term.
bought it off of someone else,
Oh, okay.
and I can find it.
I
But
see.
It's a cool,
Mhm.
a cool little self-publishing program. So you just upload either PDF, and they take some other formats,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty cool.
Good night, Ben. He's like, it's 1:30 in the morning here in New Zealand, so I gotta sign off.
gee. It is Kindle Direct Publishing,
Yeah.
KDP, but there's another name for it because it was a program that they sort of
What's that song about
bought.
grandma getting run over by a reindeer?
What is it?
What's that song?
KDP is what I use.
KDP. They always ask this. Any embarrassing stories of Drew? There's just so many to choose from. How can you pick one?
I know. I'm thinking. I know the one that I used last time this was at. So I don't want to reuse that story. He wasn't a hard kid. He was really a good, easy kid to have.
That's right.
Stories that are embarrassing to him or embarrassing to me, that might be a question. Gosh.
Remember the tick in the restaurant? That was
That was
funny.
embarrassing to both of us. So we'd gone mountain biking, and we often went out for hamburgers afterwards.
Get
And
all
he's
the
standing
calories
there
back.
at the little drink fountain getting a soda out of it. And I walked up, and there's a tick on his neck. And if you know about ticks, that can be a pretty dangerous thing.
Yeah,
There's
no,
Lyme
that's not
disease
good.
and other things. But generally, you get a tick on you, and you pick it off, and you get them on your dog, and you pick them off.
Yeah.
And they burrow into your skin, and I could see that thing was burrowing in. Somehow it wasn't bothering you.
I
It
didn't
was
notice
just
it. Yeah.
sitting there on his neck. And so I just, I wanted to get it all. So I pinched pretty good. I reached in and pinched and pulled and got that sucker right off. And
But I was screaming.
it's made him scream. And we're in this restaurant, and all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, this dad walks up to his son and pinches the back of his neck. It makes the kid scream. So that was an embarrassing moment for both of us. You were getting pinched by your
Well,
dad.
I'm glad you did it. I don't
Well,
know if you explained to me what you were doing, but
Well, I didn't want to say, Drew, you have a tick on your neck, and I'm going to pinch you really hard and get it off. I didn't want to go that far with it, so I just went
Yeah.
for it. I pinched him.
I remember that one. That was 2-3 weeks ago or something.
No.
Drew seems like he would have been a clumsy child.
Clumsy.
I probably was. I broke a few things.
I don't think
I
you
can-
were clumsy. I don't remember you breaking a lot of stuff. Expensive stuff. You didn't
Well,
drop
that's good.
the dishes or something.
No, I never
No,
did
I
the
don't
dishes.
think he's. I wouldn't describe him as clumsy.
Well, that's good. Nothing to report. I have never embarrassed myself until I got on the internet and started talking. That's when things got
There's
bad.
nothing worse than watching yourself on one of these things. For me, I mean, you probably get more and more comfortable with it. I worked in radio long enough where a lot of kids are just shocked when they hear their voice on a recording.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
not what I sound like.
Right.
It's like,
That's
yeah,
me.
it's exactly what you sound like. I'm used to hearing my voice recorded, but
Yeah.
My face,
I've gotten
my
used
body,
to it.
my mannerisms, I'm not comfortable with seeing myself later.
It's kind of shifted in spectrum. That at first I was like, I don't want to look bad. I
Yeah.
don't want to be embarrassed. And then as time went on and I was just posting content more and more regularly, I was like, I don't care. It's like that people are here for what I have to say, I assume.
Yeah.
And if you're here because you want to see a nice looking ginger stand in
He's-
front of a
He's the eye candy of the.
if I'm the eye candy, I don't want you watching. That's I will lose your view. So if
Yeah.
someone stops watching because they're like, well, he has a lot of interesting things to say, but the hair, I just can't take
can't
it.
take it.
Then I say, okay, I can afford to lose that person.
Yeah.
But now it's turned back into, I need to look decent enough because I'll never hear the end of it.
True.
If I get too sloppy, if I get
Yeah.
too lazy, I'll go into the comment section hoping to continue the subject, continue the conversation, and instead I'll get, you really need a haircut, you really need
Yeah.
this, or you should
I didn't shave
I haven't
yesterday
for a
or
while.
today, so I was prepared for the Tailosive look.
Unfortunately, despite what you guys may suggest, Louise takes all priority because she's the one who's actually got to live with this face.
Right.
You guys just look at it a few minutes every day. So if Louise
So if
wants me
she
to,
comes in and says, "Well, she cuts your hair,"
yeah, but she likes my beard to be all
she likes
grown
it
out,
grown out.
and I've always said I prefer it to be all off on these sides
Yeah.
because that's what you used to do, and
Yeah,
I
that's my
like that look, but
You guys thought I used to take a cup, put it over my mouth, and then just shave around it.
right.
You have the cup look.
But I told, but when I do that, she says it feels too sharp. So
Yeah,
when
stubble's a little grainy.
she's like, I don't want to feel all that stubble and whatnot, so you could just let it grow out.
And
So
then
I go, okay,
if you shave, you got to shave a lot. That's the thing about shaving.
that's true.
I've always,
You
when
always
I've had a
gotta shave.
clean shaven face, I just hated how much I gotta constantly.
That's true. Would Toby upload his brain to the artificial intelligence data bank for future great grandchildren? We had this discussion recently.
Wow.
I think that was the last stream.
If they had that sort of thing,
If you could download your consciousness onto a digital sense, so that future generations could. Talk to it.
that's what I feel like I'm doing with Teachers Pay Teachers.
Yeah.
Is taking all my best lesson plans, the stuff with Legos, the stuff with radio drama, the stuff with animation, all that, and I'm packaging it for that. And that's your mom actually said something like that. I want that to be somewhere besides in a file.
So someone has
cabinet or
access
box.
to
So,
it
yeah,
when I'm gone.
it's kind of cool to think
Yeah.
about. But I don't know what they're going to do with our brains. I don't think it'd be that interesting. I did see an interesting.
There's a
deal
Black
on
Mirror episode.
Well, there was a
about it.
thing on 60 Minutes a couple of years ago, actually. But it was they took Holocaust survivors and they had them tell their stories, and then they anticipated a number of questions people might have for them, and they had them answer those questions.
Wow. Oh,
And
that's
then
interesting.
it's a kind of a holographic kind of rear projection sort of
It
thing.
looks kind of.
and they
real.
have them kind of sit there thoughtfully, and you can ask them questions, and the recording, it's a laser disc probably.
Yeah.
It runs and plays the response, so it's kind of
Oh, that's
a
neat.
Google interface. So yeah, you're in because these people that were a part of that
The
that
important
era
part of
are
history.
dying.
Yeah.
My grandfather actually rolled in, and I don't think it was Auschwitz, but it was
camp.
it was a camp, and
Yeah.
it was part of the liberation. He had his own photos, which we've lost, but they would have been historical documents
Yeah.
of seeing these.
Yeah.
So that whole event is going to be lost in terms of oral history. We have
Firsthand
a lot
experience.
exactly.
There's
so,
less and less.
So they recorded a number of
That's
people.
great.
I don't know where. It might be at the Holocaust Museum in
I hope
Washington D.C.
so. That's cool. I didn't know they were doing that.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff.
What would, if you had the option, if it was like just a box you could check, and they'd say, we're going to take all of your digital presence and turn it into a personality that someone could talk to in the future.
I want to review the material.
You would need to test
I
it
might want
first.
to edit some of that.
How do I respond to this question? I always thought you could have some like fundamental concrete things that say, "Don't budge on this. Don't don't let me change my mind on this," and that kind of thing.
No, I would definitely want to be in on the algorithm that they use.
Yeah.
Of course.
Part of me worries how they'd abuse it, and the other part of me is like, well, I'm gone. I don't do what you want
There's
with
both
it.
ways.
I won't be here.
Yeah.
But
my grandkids.
Anyway, we've been going for a while.
I'm sorry.
I can't believe how late it's gotten, but thank you for coming on and answering
pleasure.
all those questions. And thank you for asking questions.
Good questions.
Oh, were you worried about Drew going to YouTube for a career in the very early days?
We told him keep his day job. And then when he started making more money than we were making, we said, okay, I guess this is working.
I guess that worked.
And we don't have to pay for college.
Yeah, so that part was nice.
That was better.
Sure, but we'll catch y'all later, and links for his work is in the description, both the book and his Teachers Pay Teachers. So if you want to know more about Dad, check him out there. Thanks all for watching. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Bye-bye.